How you doing? It's time for another show. I didn't think I was going to do this one today, but I am going to do it now. I had a minor dog emergency earlier. I was supposed to have Ian Miles Chong on today, but I decided it was in probably both our best interests not to do it at this time. Possibly Wednesday. We'll see how things work out. But I have a in case everybody wants to know, one of my hobbies, one of my greatest passions in life is my greyhounds. Anybody who knows me knows that about me. So I have a 14-year-old greyhound right now. His name is Henry. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Anyways, he's old, and we have stairs in the place where I'm upstairs right now. It's funny, I should show you guys this really quickly. I got the dog cam in effect. That's Bambi though. Bams the Blaster. Her track name was Bam's Blast, just so you guys know. Today we're just going to jump right into things. I'm not going to screw around. You guys already know about the events, and you guys already know what's going on. We'll cover that stuff when we get back, or when I get to the end of the show today. I don't know how long I'm going to go. An hour, maybe 2 hours. We'll see how things go. I know I like the dog cam too. But if you're watching this show, you already know. You know what you should do. Go hit the subscribe button and all that good stuff. Okay, so that's out of the way. Today I'm going to talk about game. And before I get into the main topic today, I have to put some caveats on here. Okay, I'm sorry I have to do this, but I have to do this. Okay, so here's the thing: if you are a looks maxer, this show is not for you. If you are a MGTOW who is not interested or thinks that he should never on planet Earth ever talk to another woman again for the rest of his life, this show is not for you. Okay, just laying this out there because I'm a little tired of having to justify or verify or whatever, legitimize the fact that I occasionally talk about things like game. And I entertain guys like Troy, my good friends Troy Francis and John from Modern Life Dating, and they're not the only ones. Okay, I'm still on good terms with Nick Krauser. I'm still on good terms with Kyle Trouble. I'm all the rest of these guys, right? So if you happen to think that they are all grifters and shysters and sell snake oil, this show is not for you. All right. So at some point, it's okay to talk about how to get girls, right? That's what you want to know, right? How to get girls. So, or how to deal with it, how to best position yourself, I guess, is probably the better way to describe this. And the reason I'm getting into this is because I was watching a video recently, sort of an in-car video, and I forget the guy's name. I'm going to look it up here really quickly. A good guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to think that I'm like sort of attacking this guy, but I believe his name is Red Pill Father or Red Pill Dad or something like that. Here it is. Sorry, American Dad. And he's just a new Twitter channel. He seems like a pretty good guy. I've checked out some of his stuff. I'm looking at the video right now, and I'll call it up here. For a guy who's sort of got 42 followers on Facebook, he's got an interesting production value here. Okay, so I found the video. Here we go. So I'm going to do a little bit of a case study here. I don't want to call it a case study, but I'm just going to sort of riff on this video a little bit. His video is called oh shit, I guess I can just put this on YouTube. That's even better. Let's just go right over to that. There we go. All right. So, and again, this guy's pretty good. I'm sorry. I should have had all that calibrated, ready to go. So today's video, today's topic is going to be about game. All right. And does game matter? Is game necessary? I think we got this asked of me or the guys on Rule Zero. It was either this last Saturday, yesterday, or it was the day before. About why bother with game? What's the point of game? Because if you have looks, game doesn't matter, right? If you have money, game doesn't matter, right? Because you just go buy pussy. If you have looks, who cares? Women are, if we're going to take this binary approach to everything, women are just going to throw themselves at you, right? I mean, that's that's all about looks maxing. Why not? Why not go get like what, a facial reconstruction surgery? Because that's your only way of reproducing, apparently. So why are what's funny is every time I see guys who are like really on the looks max thing, I don't even call it looks maxing, but they're just like, that's their game. That's their end game anyways, is to completely restructure themselves, sort of like a woman getting plastic surgery and getting a boob job and Botox and whatever else. I don't even know what women even do these days. To maximize their attractiveness potential. And we're going to get into a little bit about what attractiveness potential is. But today I'm going to ask a few questions of you guys, and if you want to, put some stuff in the chat, that's fine. We'll talk about that too. But the first question I wanted to talk about before I get to this video is men's romantic success just predicated on a woman's initial attraction? And that's really where all of this begins. And you'll see here, it's a 10-minute video. I'm kind of debating as to whether I want to scrub through it a little bit or if I should just get to the meaty parts, but I'm gonna put this on here. The video is called and I'll stop it as I go, but it's called Meet Cute. Have you ever had a meet cute? And I think this is funny because it's sort of I think he is probably red pill or is becoming red pill aware. I presume the guy is married and is sort of coming to terms that if I had to guess, and I don't know this for sure, if I had to guess, this is a guy who is awakened while married. And if you don't know what awakened while married means, it's like you get these guys who are blue pill. I'm not saying he is or isn't. I don't know enough about him. I don't even know the guy's real name. But you get guys who are they're married. And they've been married, say, maybe let's just say round it off 10 years. And they read my material, or they get into a position where it's like, sex was great for them in the first couple of years of marriage. Their wife had a baby and now they're in this sexless marriage. And that's usually when married guys find the red pill, or they find me, or they find, whatever forum, or maybe Rich Cooper, who knows. And they're trying to figure out how to turn the sex spigot back on again, because things used to be so good when, prior to marriage, right? They would, this is a very common story, is I'll get guys who will hit me up and they'll say, well, Rollo, how do I get the frame back? How do I get her to have sex with me again? It used to be so great, man. We used to have sex in the car, or they'll recount all of the, all their past sexual escapades that sort of sold him on the idea of, wow, this is how sex is going to be with this girl if I marry her, and nice girl, let's do it, right? Let's get married, and it seems like a good idea. I think a lot of mostly beta guys, that's a selling point, right? That's why a lot of beta men, let's just say blue pill men, get into a marriage in the first place, because they think that it is like signing up for utilities or something, right? Well, I'll move in with her and I'll sign this contract. I'll sign this lease agreement. And pretty much that means that, we're going to have sex whenever we want. Won't it be great? We don't have to worry about going on dates anymore. We don't have to worry about, all of the formalities that go and this question of whether I'm going to get it or I'm not going to get it. And, usually this is after that honeymoon period. When a guy first meets a woman and she's, 3 months in, right? But the first 3 months, it's like a sex marathon, right? You can't keep your hands off. You can't even get any work done. You can't do anything because you're trying to figure out how you're going to line up the next time you get with that girl, because there's that genuine desire between you and her. And for guys who are blue pill conditioned, that is like having your ship come in. Oh my God! Finally, that's why the myth of the one, the myth of the soulmate, is so pervasive. Like that word, pervasive. There's your $10 word today. It's because guys think that if they are experiencing what we call in the red pill, we call that genuine desire. If they're experiencing that that it must be special. It must be something. She must be a quality woman. If she's having sex with me, she must be a quality woman, right? So they get through that. You go through the first 3 months, and there's that genuine desire between the two of you. And then you have the brilliant idea of saying, hey, we could save money on rent if we just moved in together, and then we could bang anytime we want to. And wouldn't that be great? And then, of course, what happens is when you get into those situations, usually that's when the sex dries up, or not dries up, but certainly is reduced. And it's reduced in urgency, and it's reduced in frequency for sure, because it's like, well, it's okay. We don't have to have sex right now. We can have it anytime. And, guys get comfortable, women get comfortable. And after a point, whether you're married or you're living together, it's one of the iron rules of Tomassi, which is never shack up, right? Never get into a long-term relationship, or never, I would say long-term, you never get into a situation where you are living with a woman unless you have plans to marry that person within, like, say, the next 6 months. And I use that as a very loose time frame. And again, let me repeat that if you are completely 100% against marriage, if you are completely 100% against guys doing something in some way to make themselves more attractive to women, this is not your show, right? We're going to talk about how guys can go from no girlfriend to a girlfriend, or no sex to sex, right? And I'm done pussyfooting around. I'm going to talk about this if I want to talk about this. You guys already know what my position is. I'm not a PUA, but it's okay to talk about this stuff. It's okay to say, hey, maybe you want to try this. Here's some suggestions. So that's what we're going to get into today. So anyways, you go through that 3-month period, and things dry up, and the guy gets into it, and he says, oh, what am I going to do? That's when he starts looking online. He finds me, he finds Rich, finds whoever. And that's when the light comes on for the blue pill guy. The light comes on and says, oh, I can't believe I didn't know this before. That's one of the reasons I wrote the second book, was to help guys understand the timeline, understand the game that they're in. So what does he do? What does that guy do? Well, he looks for answers. He seeks out the red pill. He seeks out what it is that we talk about, so that he can turn that back on. It doesn't necessarily have to be a guy who is single and out sarging and running game on girls. There's kind of formalized game, and there's game that's just you trying to do what you think is the best way to initiate sex. I mean, that's really, like, even if you're in a relationship with a woman, there's the initiation. Like, what are you going to do to initiate sex with your wife or your girlfriend, or maybe one of your plates? I've talked about this a dozen different times about plate theory and why it's important. So I'm gonna play a little bit of this here. There's a reason why he calls this. He asks a question. He says, "Have you ever had a meet cute?" And I'll just paraphrase real quickly so you know what he's talking about. He goes through a story here, and again, this is about a 10-minute video, so I don't want to drag it out too much. But he has an experience where I guess the woman that became his wife, or his first girlfriend, I guess, when he was younger, she was giving him indicators of interest, what we call IOIs, and he didn't get the message, because when you're a kid, or because I think he was younger, you just don't get it. But then he starts asking these questions of, well, in every single time he's ever been in a situation where he got laid, or he got with a girlfriend, it's always the woman who had initiated with him or had shown him indicators of interest. It wasn't anything that he did. It was that he had been in the right place at the right time. And I'll stop and start this as we go, but let me just click this in here for you guys really quickly here. Where did it go? There it is. Share a Chrome tab, and there we go. So let me know if the audio is good for this, guys.
Whatever, I think it's like February 22nd today, 21st, 22nd.
I'm going to move this up a little bit, because he kind of rambles a little bit here at the beginning.
And I'm going to start this video by talking about a phenomenon that in romantic comedies they call it meet cute, right? That's exactly what it sounds like. This is the cute little story that you tell your friends and your family and stuff around the dinner table or whatever when the topic of how did you guys meet comes up. Okay. I'll tell you about my very first one. Okay. I was just barely 16 years old. It was the first serious girlfriend I ever had. First long-term relationship. Lost my virginity with her. You know, this was the high school sweetheart story, right? I worked at a place called Magic Mountain. There's a amusement park in California where I grew up. I worked at a ride there. I was a ride operator, and so was she. And during the off-season months, they would close some of the what they called the minor rides or the lesser rides, and they would everyone would sort of pool into the bigger rides, or they would siphon them off of the smaller rides onto the bigger attraction rides, so that they could keep those big attraction rides open. And I worked at one of the big ones, and she worked at one of the small ones. So when there was a staffing problem, they would bring people over, right? So they called it a day transfer. So this girl, her name was Angelica. I'm not going to change any names or whatever. This was 35 years ago. She came to work at our ride once, and then she started coming back when they would have like a request for a day transfer. She would say, I'll go to work at that ride. And this happened like 3 or 4 times, and then pretty soon somebody said to me, like, hey Scott, the reason Angelica comes to this ride is because she's into you, like she likes you, whatever. And I was like, that's stupid, right? I blew it off. I wasn't tracking. And then one day she came to our ride again, and we were working like 20 feet away from each other. I was putting people in their lap belts, loading them into the train, and she was over here like managing the line traffic. And I kept looking at her out of the corner of my eye, and I kept catching her staring at me. I thought she was retarded or something. I was like, why does she keep looking at me? Like I kept looking over there, and I caught her like multiple times, like staring. Finally, somebody was like, dude, this girl's really into you. You gotta like do something. So the rest of that story, goes how you might expect it to, just right. We went out, she became my girlfriend, blah blah, right? So that was how that goes. I have numerous stories like that. I'm 48 years old, so I've had a few relationships in my time. Everybody knows I'm married now. I've been married for 13 years. I love my wife, but I do have a past. I have these stories, right? I have and here's the thread that runs through every single one of those.
All right, this is important.
Every single one of those, the girl was the pursuer. She was the one who initiated it, made it really, really obvious. Now, the fact that I didn't pick up on it is related to, I was a dumb jock. Like I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't trained to see this, so I was pretty typical high school jock, right? So I wasn't aware that this was going on, but that's irrelevant. The point is, every single one of those stories is her pursuing me, right? So that's part number one. Another sort of related issue to this is,
okay, I'm going to hold it right there really quickly. So, and we'll continue on here, because he's about to get into the second part of what I want to discuss with you guys today. So the very first part of that, and we'll continue here in just a second. I'll let you guys watch the whole thing. Yeah, sorry. He was kind of, I think he mentioned he was kind of sick, so he had like some chews or I don't know, some lozenges or some shit. So anyways, this is a common question I've had to deal with from guys from like as far back as like when I was on So Suave. So guys will come up to me and they'll say, well, they'll hit me up in a debate or something. They'll say, you know what, game's not even necessary. Why would you even, who cares about game when if all you need is a lot of money and you can go get laid? Why not simply just go to the brothels in Reno or in Nevada? Rollo, why not go to that? As long as I've got the money, pursue money and not women or something. I forget what the meme is because who cares, right? Because if that's all a woman is really after anyways, game is irrelevant in that instance. Another way of making game irrelevant is, well, you just look so good that women come up to you and open you, and that's definitely definitely an advantage for sure. I've gotten into lots of different debates over the years on my own blog, in the comments in my blog, as to whether game is the be all end all, or if looks are the be all end all, or if affluence and wealth is the be all end all when it comes to getting women to I guess solve your reproductive problem. You can do it with a lot of money. You can do it with a lot of with good looks, and you can do it with game. But a lot of people think that because somebody is teaching you how best to go from being sexless and single to being intimate and getting laid, that the way that they believe that you should do that is in some way offensive to those guys, because most guys become ego invested in their game. So the first part of today's discussion is that everyone you know has game. I've said this before. Everyone you know has game. How effective that game is, that's open for interpretation. Everyone you know has some idea of how best to go from being sexless and single to being, to getting into a relationship of some sort, or to get a girlfriend, as it were. Turn this light off. Is that better? I like that. I got the little key light going today. I think I'm gonna turn it off. So really what you're doing is, running your own game. Most guys, when they are in their teenage years, they're fumbling around trying to make the best of it. I know I did this when I was in high school, as I didn't have any teachers. I certainly didn't have a father who said, here's how you get the girls, Rollo. It was trial and error. Figure it out. And of course, I noticed a lot of the same things that this guy does, is that, my good looking friends who were jacked, or who had the V-taper, who were on the football team, or doing whatever, they tended to be the guys that would get the most female attention. So why not just simply live in the gym? And a lot of guys do that. They say, you know what, that's the only way I can do it. I remember doing that myself. I was like, the only way I'm going to solve my reproductive problem is to find a way to go from, being invisible to being visible. And suddenly I find out that, changing my physique, changing I think there's some basics, right? I mean, you have to have some sort of facial symmetry and everything else to go along with that. But once you go from being sort of fat and smooth to being a little more muscular and defined, I'm not going to say ripped, but even if you just make those basic upgrades in yourself, you will suddenly discover that women pay attention to you. There's no denying that. And when I make this observation a lot, is that especially when people start bringing up the dad bod phenomenon right now, it's like there are no dad bod calendars, at least none that I'm aware of, for women. There are hot fireman calendars. There are the Chippendales and Thunder from Down Under calendars, but there are not any dad bod calendars. And if they are, they're meant to be a parody, a joke. And there's a reason for that, because women have much more static physical standards for idealized male beauty than men will ever have for women, because we have different sexual strategies. Men do not have an attraction floor. Or if we do, it's put it this way: men have an attraction floor, but that attraction floor is usually somewhere below his own sexual market value. So, real fan, thanks for that, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's fine. You can. I'll be taking counseling pretty soon. I'm getting back into it only because lighting in here sucks today. So here it is. And again, the question is this: is men's romantic success just predicated on a woman's initial attraction to him? That's what he's talking about here. Because in every situation that he's ever been in, the attraction took place because he just was in the right place at the right time. And that's one instance. And I know because I've done the same thing. I happened to be the cute guy that was, in the bookstore, or the guy who was at the beach, or the guy who was, in the club playing a gig or whatever. I mean, that in those days, in my rock star 20s, I'm not going to lie, I was there because it certainly was for the money. Okay. It was there because it was fun. I was hanging out with my friends, and I learned there how to game women. We didn't call it game, but I learned how to go about choosing and putting myself in the most attractive light that I possibly could. And lo and behold, women found me attractive. And we went from there. And then I learned a lot more about women from that point. But that's the thing. And I think a lot of guys who are into this sort of looks max thing, or they're into the black pill, like the black pill is like, oh my God, what, we're doomed. It's like this, it's almost like this organized despondency. And it's centered on the idea that attraction is not a choice. And I'm sure you guys have heard this before. This is a very common thing, or a common maxim, let's just call it, in the androsphere. I'm not going to call it the other name anymore. It's in the sphere. Okay. So back in the old days, I think it was David D'Angelo who coined this phrase, is that attraction is not a choice, meaning that a woman does not decide whether or not she's going to be attracted to you. There is just that chemical evolved connection. And I talk about this in my in the first book. It's Iron Rule of TOMASSI number 3, is that any woman that makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. Now, everyone takes that the wrong way. They say, oh my God, Rollo is saying that you should, if you're not getting laid by the third date, then it's, it's not, or you just want guys to go out and just nail, random sluts. That's what you're saying. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to focus on the desire, because if a woman is putting something between you and sex, there's a mitigation there. It might be just up here. It might just be her headspace, but there's something that's mitigating that desire. And again, that's what this guy is talking about. And I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I gotta get him. I think I might just get him on the show. But this is, like I said, a very common, I think, misperception, is that it's only about that initial attraction. Now, the old school PUAs would say, look, you can find while attraction is not a choice, you can certainly use game to put yourself into the best possible potential, so that if attraction is possible, that you understand that you're putting yourself in that right, in the right space. You are congruent. Your look, your attraction potential for that woman is put into the position where, if she is attracted to you, that you can take it from there. Because a lot of guys will do this, and I wanted to talk about this today as well, is there's a school of thought in PUA, in game theory, I guess, that a lot of times when you get there, at certain times, I should say, when you get into a situation where a woman is attracted to you, the only thing you have to do is not screw it up, is not fuck it up, man, not say the wrong thing, not be incongruent with the impression of what that woman has of you in her head. So, like I've said this before, it's like when I was in my 20s, and majority of my notch count comes from when I was in my 20s. There were times where I screwed things up. Like I knew I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna take her home. I'm gonna go to her place. We're gonna do it in the car. Whatever, right? I knew I was gonna get there, and then there was just bam. There was something I screwed up. I said something the wrong way, or I implied something, and me being the overt male, me being the guy who just says what I mean and mean what I say, and direct. In today's terms, I guess you would call it mode 1, right? To be straight up front, no games. Just say, hey, are you DTF? Down to fuck. Are you? I get why in certain situations and in certain contexts that is attractive. I get it. I understand why. But the thing is like, when it comes to direct game, there has to be that initial attraction, that initial arousal. Because if there's not, and you read it the wrong way, you really put yourself into, especially today, you put yourself into a very precarious position. So are there women that will appreciate that honesty? Yeah, I'm sure that there are. At least you're not wasting your time. That's why I do approve of Alan Roger Curry's Mode 1. I think that he is absolutely spot on with a lot of this, particularly because he approaches it from a very pragmatic perspective, meaning I'm not going to waste time. You're not going to waste time. I don't want to waste my words on you. I don't want to, if you know, I find you attractive. Do you find me attractive? Yes, no. Okay. Bam. Okay. That, and subtle, more subtle than that. Obviously you got to be more tactful than that, but I do appreciate the value of being pragmatic. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I stress the 3 strikes rule, or one of the reasons I stress nexting. And if you haven't read my essays on nexting, it's in the book and it's also on my site. Just look up next. Nexting was a PUA technique, I guess, or a frame of mind. There's a lot of, it's funny is like, there's so many guys who want to say that they're red pill aware, or they'll hate on PUAs, but they have no idea what PUA is. And so when, like most of the guys' hate of PUA comes from an inability to really understand it, from an inability to see the point in it. To why should I bother? Why should I do anything? Who cares? It's like every damn time I write a new post, or I think of something new to put on a video, or I talk to the guys on Rule 0, I have to put the little asterisks on there. If you care to bother to do this, if you care to do this. And that's really where a lot of guys stop. They're just like, well, I'm not going to do it anyway, so forget about it. Well, okay, fine, you're not going to do that, but if you want to maximize your potential, then why not learn this stuff? Why not learn PUA? Why not learn game? Because part of game is understanding red pill theory and understanding why it is certain things work and certain things don't. Because when you get in there and you're practicing this, you go, I understand why Amuse Mastery works. I understand why Kino works. I understand why Agree and Amplify or Cocky Funny or whatever, all the old school concepts. I understand why those things work. One of those was the 3-second rule. And that was you go in, you make the approach within 3 seconds. And if you don't, you don't. Because within 3 seconds, you will have talked yourself out of it. You will say, instead of going and make, and 90% of the time you're going to fall flat on your face. That's part of the learning curve. And even in that failure, you're still learning stuff. Most guys can't take that, because when they get to a certain point, when they get older in life, and those rejections pile up, and there's you've got your ego involved in it. And one of the things a lot of the old school PUAs, even to this day, still say is you got to kill your ego. Now, I disagree with that, but in the terms, I don't think you can possibly ever kill your ego, because it's psychologically it's impossible. You would be a robot, you would be an automaton. But the reason why they tell you to kill your ego, or ego is the enemy, is because that is what prevents you from really, I guess, removing yourself from the situation, from putting yourself into the third person when it comes to being vulnerable, when it comes to being in these positions where you can become rejected, so that your ego isn't bruised if you are, playing the game in the third person. That's where that really comes into its own. So the question is this, and hold on 1 second. Let's see. New name, Realm Zero. No, we will not be calling it Realm Zero. What else was in here? Thank you, man. Yeah. Oh, I got to you already. I'm sorry. Let's move on. If you have off-topic questions, I'll take them once again as policy. If you have an off-topic question, I will take it at the end of the show. So anyways, getting back to what I was saying is, so the question is this: why bother? Why bother learning game if all I have to do is sit in the corner of the room and wait for the girl to pass by who actually finds me attractive? Why go and put myself out there? Why go? And I understand that people got really upset when I was talking about vulnerability on Wednesday. No, I fully understand exactly what Mark Manson is talking, but I also understand the root of why he thinks that vulnerability is something that is, in some way attractive, or it's almost like the vulnerability Olympics. Oh, I'm more vulnerable than he is, so girls should like me. It's putting yourself out there. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's just about putting yourself out there, then just getting up in the morning is making yourself vulnerable. Walking out the door, getting in your car and driving to work is making yourself vulnerable. So what's the, you know, where do we draw the line? Like, what's an objective understanding of what makes one vulnerable and what doesn't? So anyways, just getting back to what I was saying is like, and I'll come back to the video here, but so here's the thing. That's why is attraction not a choice? Why is it something that, like, if a woman is into you, she's into you. If she's not, she's not. One of the reasons, like I said, why I put out the third iron rule of Tomassi, which is if any woman who makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. And it's not that I'm telling guys to go nail any random girl. I'm just saying that the reason you have to think about this one. Why would I say something like that? Because it's rooted in desire. There has to be a genuine desire between that woman and you. And I think that a lot of guys think that the only way to get to that real genuine desire is to be the guy in the right place at the right time and hopefully get the message, hopefully understand. So I'm gonna continue this really quickly because he sort of makes my second point here. So we're gonna move on to that real fast. Let's put you back in the stream. Add to the stream. There we go. And I'm sorry about the audio, guys. It's just a little bit low. So this is his second point.
It's a story that happened to me when I went to a fast food restaurant with a friend of mine and our girlfriends, right? So there was 4 of us. And this is when we were in high school. And I think this was actually the same girl, my first girlfriend. We were sitting there in a restaurant, and this guy comes in through one of the side doors in the restaurant, and both of the girls looked at each other and they went, like they had this sort of like this sighing sound, and me and my friend were like, what's going on? And they were like, they sort of like spilled the beans. They were like, well, we can tell if a guy is hot of the peripheral of our vision. Like we saw that guy from the parking lot when he walked in, and we knew this guy is hot, right? And they were like, relax, we felt that way about you. Obviously you're our boyfriends now, but at some point you got our attention.
All right, I'm gonna just hold it right there for a second. Get back to where I was. There we are. So he makes a good point here, is that one of the reasons why we can assess sexual viability, both men and women do this, where we're taught that women don't do this, or that they need some sort of, coercion or some game, right, to feel attraction to a woman. But here's the thing: is there's a difference between attraction and arousal. So for a woman to see a guy who's hot is one thing, but there needs to be something that's more for attraction as well. There needs to be some, like, if you think of it in these terms, when we talk about alpha fucks and beta bucks, okay, alpha fucks is the arousal side of hypergamy. Beta bucks is the attraction side of hypergamy. So long-term versus short-term. Alpha seed, beta need. So if a woman sees a guy, like she was saying, or he was saying that, the girlfriend saw some guy from, we can tell if the guy's hot from across the parking lot. And I know I have learned this a long, long time ago. I learned this before I even had a wife or a daughter, that women they're far more visual than, in fact, I would say they're at least as visual when it comes to sexuality. They're as visual, and probably becoming more so because of the internet and because of our global sexual marketplace. They're becoming more attuned to physical cues than they always have been. But back in the day, back before the internet, back before open hypergamy, back before hypergamy was something that women would openly embrace and proudly flaunt it, to make cutesy jokes and everything like this. He's coming into this reasoning right now. Like, this is something that's new to him. And don't give him grief, don't give him shit just because he's learning this right now. So part of your awakening, part of your unplugging, I guess, from the matrix is learning these things, and there's nothing wrong with that. So he's picking up on this. Some guys learn this sooner, some guys learn this later. And I think more and more guys are becoming aware of how the game works, without me saying anything, certainly because women today in a global sexual marketplace feel more comfortable embracing hypergamy, embracing the game, saying, you know what, the womankind says we are so in control of this situation of society and this social order that we are now comfortable in revealing the game. We are now comfortable in saying, yeah, you're right. We look for the hottest guy. We can spot him from across the room, and don't worry about it. You guys were sexy enough at one point. Well, yes and no. They might be, because they were seen as good long-term dads, as good provider dads, whereas the guy coming in across the parking lot was seen as a good hot sexual opportunity, because that's the arousal versus attraction. So get those two things need to get in your head. And I will move. Where'd he go again? There we go.
From far away like that. And they were like, we thought everybody knew this. And we were like, no, we did not know that. So it was something I learned about women, pretty early. Sort of third part of this story, right, is I have had situations where I would go to something, a party, some kind of social event or whatever, meet a girl wherever, in class, in college, whatever, and immediately think, I like her. I'd like to meet her. I'd like to, whatever. But if that initial, what they call the manosphere and the red pill, they call it the IOI, right? If she's not giving you
indicators of interest,
like that, forget it. You're not, there's no like pickup line or turning up your game or whatever that's gonna like fix that. You just next it, just move on, right?
Okay, so this is the misperception I would say right here. Now, here's the thing, is when you adopt this idea that there's no line is going to get a girl who's not interested. This is actually something that PUA has picked up a long time ago, which this is the David D'Angelo, attraction is not a choice. Okay. You can do things to put yourself into a more attractive light, and you can do things to put yourself into a more unattractive light. So just because a guy looks like Jason Momoa, if he is acting effeminate and is dressing effeminate, women will still be hot for him. But the incongruency between what he looks like and the perception and the impression that he gives on women is incongruent with how he's behaving, how he's thinking, what he's doing. I use the example of my old friend Jake, who was a PR guy at one of the casinos I was working at, and guy was model quality, good looking, and women would open him, and he was very affable guy. He was nice enough, PR guy, so he was kind of extroverted in a way, but his attitude and his approach towards women was really, really blue pill. Was very like, I'm looking for the one. He sounded like a chick a lot of times. I mean, people would say, well, I wonder if he's gay, because but he wasn't. I mean, it was very, he could get laid, and he did, but he could never really turn it into what he wanted it to be. It was almost like Mystery Meth, like when Mystery got really despondent and suicidal because he couldn't turn women into what he wanted them to be. It's the same idea as this, but he was very good looking, and women would open him, and that's how it would work. So the idea and what he's getting on here is that game is pointless, right? Because it doesn't matter what you say, what you do. If a girl's not into you, she's not into you. In one respect, yes, but game is still valuable. And I'll explain to you why here in just a minute when I continue this, but I wanted to point that out. Now, the other thing I'm going to point out here as well is a lot of guys will say, well, yeah, of course, Rollo, you're one of those PUA guys and you're trying to sell a course, or you're trying to make some money off of convincing these poor saps that if they say the right thing and they do the right thing, then they're going to be able to, nail a hot blonde with big tits and blue eyes. And that's not I've never said anything like that, but I understand, I will say this, I understand why that is a hesitation for guys, right? That's really the whole premise of forums like PUA hate, slut hate, whatever it is. PUA hate was really the one that I think it was Elliot Rodger or somebody who said something like that, or was part of that forum. And why? Because they had at one point bought into the idea that if they said the right things and they did the right things, that they would in some way be successful in their reproductive trials and tribulations. Phil, when do you think you'll do a red pill and your family members topic? Oh, you know what, Phil, I'm actually writing. I've got a whole post about that in my drafts folder right now. I'm going to do something that's a little bit out of ordinary for myself. I'm going to post that when I'm done with it. I will post that, and then I'm going to do a follow-up video that is especially devoted, I guess, to that particular essay, and I'll explain it and we'll read it and we'll go through it. So that's coming. Don't worry about it. Let's see. It's probably the biggest challenge a lot of us since discovering. Yeah, I know. I understand. That's why I kind of have to, I want to do a thorough job with that one. So just so you guys know where I'm at. And where did that go? Sam Whiskey, how frequently does game evolve? Ooh, good question. Game evolve. That's hard to say. It has evolved exponentially, as you might guess, since the internet. The principles of game, the fundamental nature of women, the fundamental nature of intersexual dynamics between men and women doesn't really change, but the context does. And the historical context, what's going on socially, you have to include what's happening in a society at that particular time to understand the sexual marketplace of that era. So obviously the sexual marketplace of the 1950s and sock hops and all that great stuff, Happy Days, that understanding of intersexual dynamics is long gone, but they were based on fundamental principles. There's still the alpha, there's still the chump, there's still the beta, women are still women and men are still men. It's just the context of it changes out. Same thing with, I've said this before, it's like you can get into like these, like right after the sexual revolution in the late 60s into the early 70s, when you had the boomer generation, right? When you had the hippies, when you had the free love generation, even from within that, where everybody's supposed to be egalitarian, everybody is free love, man, hey, just go with the flow, right on, man, keep it trucking. Even in those little subcultures that are, ostensibly not about, gender roles or it's mostly about social conditioning and social construction kind of stuff. And it's okay. Hey, we're going to have free love. You're going to poly this and we're going to go with the flow and everything. Even from within those subcultures, I don't care what the subculture is. Show me the subculture and I will still be able to show you how hypergamy works, how men's nature works, and how that sexual marketplace plays out. Even in gamer culture, I can show it to you. So the nature of the game doesn't change. Just the context of the game changes. What'd you say? 56 years old. Did Mystery Method and RSD courses successful, professional, fit, financially solid? Do you have experience as an older guy? Dating younger women, attraction may not be a choice, but LTR is no realistic. Money gets you laid. Is not real. I think you meant not realistic. Attraction may not be the choice, but not realistic. Money gets you laid. Oh, well, okay. When you are 56 years old, when you're 65 years old, I think what happens is, and I'm gonna touch on this here in just a second, becoming the new you. I think what happens, and he's going to talk about this here towards the end of this video, is guys become what I call domain dependent. Now, I usually point out domain dependency in terms of game. So say, for instance, you're a guy who has a lot of success at day game, or you're a guy who can go into the clubs and you can pull pretty successfully. I used to do that. I used to be able to go into a club and play a gig or something like that. Granted, again, the context was different, but I learned how to do that. I really was more domain dependent than I probably knew I was at the time. So there were ways that I could meet girls, but most of the time when I met girls and when I was sarging for lack of a better term. I was in an environment that I'd learned how to do that. So that's from within game itself. But what a lot of guys do is they will become successful at particular ways of thinking or at particular sides of game. So yes, does having a lot of money get you laid? Sure, it does. And for a lot of people will say like, well, money isn't everything, and it's just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean that chicks are going to still want to get with you. Andrew Tate talks about this all the time. John from Modern Life Dating would probably agree with the same thing, is that just because you're loaded and you go to Southeast Asia, yeah, you can go find a prostitute. It's not a problem to go find a prostitute. It's not a problem to go be a sugar daddy if you have the money. In fact, what I was going to say is the idea of sugaring right now, the normalization of what's really soft prostitution, that is also an extension of open hypergamy right now. We are accepting. I mean, that women, we went through a stage, right? Women said, okay, you know what, guys, you got us. You understand the game now. It really is about hypergamy. It's cads and dads, right? We want the guy who's hot to have fun, monkey sex with, and we want you to fund it. We want you to be our happily ever after. And so what they do is they take all of this and they embrace it, and it's out in the open anyways because of the internet, because we have a global sexual marketplace, right? And as a result of that, we have a global marketplace of ideas. So when I'm talking to you, or you go on a forum, or you go on just a terrestrial radio show, when you go anywhere outside of all this, they're still talking about it in school, in wherever you go, in the workplace, at the water cooler, whatever it is. The idea that women are hypergamous is not a secret anymore. So that used to be something that was revolutionary. That used to be something that was very radical. And I wrote that post. Actually, I wrote 2 or 3 posts about open hypergamy back in 2014, 2015. And I said, look, we have finally reached a point where women are comfortable embracing the revelation of their sexual market, or their mating strategy, their sexual strategy. And now we think it's cute. Now we make commercials. If you've seen my essays on this, I post an example of a commercial from I think it was like for a movie for Batman or something, but it was like for Red Robin was the restaurant, and there's this girl who's at the restaurant and she's with one guy and they're eating, and it looks like a date, and she's saying something. I don't even remember what the dialogue was. And so she expects the guy who's at the table to pay for the date and pay for the food and everything else. But then at the end of the commercial, she leaves with the tall Chad guy who picks her up and walks out the door with her. And the guy's like, the dumb beta at the table's like, oh, I don't know. And we laugh about it. And I said, this is just the reason we find this funny is because we have normalized open hypergamy. The jig is up. Women are like, you know what, you got us. Okay, let's just go with it. And they're comfortable enough to be embracing of that. There used to be a time when women would keep that secret. They had to, because if they didn't, if men knew that there was alpha fucks and beta bucks, they might not get beta bucks. They were at least prudent and understood, if hypergamy, if it's anything, hypergamy is pragmatic. It will be. I explained this to Pat a while ago, and I was in a tweet thread just recently. Women can hold conflicting ideas at the same time, and it's particularly easy when those ideas are conflicting ideas, cognitive dissonance, about their own mating strategies. So a woman can say, like, I use this example all the time with my poor girls, where I've got one that says, would you ever have sex on the first night? And the other one says, well, yeah, sure. Haha. Unless he was boyfriend material, unless he looked like he was a dad instead of a cat. And there's no disconnect. There's no, they'll laugh at it. Oh, I'm so bad. There's no cognitive dissonance there. There's no feeling bad about it until, of course, they get to a point where they can no longer facilitate that. When a woman gets to her epiphany phase between 29 and 31 years old, maybe I think it's getting pushed even later these days, but maybe that's when they begin to sort of have at least some kind of insight about whether or not they'll be able to keep up the pace, keep up the mating strategy into perpetuity, right? Into their 30s. And I would say probably they can now, or they soon will be if they don't. But there's that embracing of it, embracing of open hypergamy. But it used to be that we needed to keep it secret, and that's what he's getting at right here with the idea that women are giving him this revelation. Oh, we found that. Oh, this guy's really hot. He's across the parking lot. They get their get the tingles, as Royce would call it, the vagina tingles. And now they're comfortable enough revealing it to the guys that they're with. That is open hypergamy. You will hear that. Like, people want to give me so much shit about hypergamy. No, that's all that Rollo guy ever talks about. No, it's everywhere. You're seeing it. If I say, okay, this is what it's about, and you read it, and sometimes that's really jarring to a guy's system, particularly if that guy has been blue pill for a long time. Oh my gosh, really, this is how it happens. Like, he's in shock. This is something I learned early on. Well, apparently not early enough, but that's what I'm getting at here, is that there's this openness about it, but that didn't used to be that way. It used to be a secret. And in that secret is what it is that women are really attracted to, what they're looking for, why there's a difference between arousal and there's attraction. There used to be social conventions. There used to be I guess social conventions is really the best way I can put it. There used to be social conventions that would keep that secret, and God forbid you let it out. It used to be back in the day, we would call a woman a gold digger because she was revealing or making it too overt that this is actually what most women are about. 98% of women are about is a resource transfer. And why wouldn't they be? They're not. And don't think everybody's gonna say, well, he thinks that women are evil. No, I'm not saying that women are evil. I'm just saying that's the methodology. How you choose to interpret that is all up to you. If you don't say, well, women are bad, look, bad news. Yeah, they're bad news if you don't understand it. They're bad news if you don't know how to live in that, that dynamic, how to make it, and it now. Why are you not making the best of that whole situation? So I'm going to keep going here. Let me move up a little bit. Man, you guys are getting the good stuff today. I'm a little hot, man. I'm a little hot. Sorry. Joe, what'd you say? Rollo, have you heard the story about Woman Lawmaker in Alabama? Yes, I do. Okay, that's just okay. I'll save that for later. We'll come back to that. I'm sorry. That's a little too off for me right now. Sorry, guys. Anything else that I missed? I will hit the rest of these by the end of the thing. Thank you for all of these super chats. Carl Bennington says, I've had women give me the cheek on the first date. Yeah, me too. But suddenly blow up my phone. Should I still take them out? I seem to get angry and just next them. Am I overreacting? You're not overreacting if you're spinning more plates. If you have a roster of 4 or 5 girls at the same time, and you want to, I would say that if you are in a position where you have a lot of options, you should adopt the idea that you can hard next whenever you want to. Because most of the time, women are not used to being nexted. They're used to having, because why would they? They have a lot of women will, guys will say this. They'll say, well, women can get so much attention from guys. They have beta orbiters. They just, all they're doing is on their phone, and they're looking at their phone, and they can get that attention at any time that they want to get it. So why are you special? Who cares what you say? Because she's just going to go on, Snapchat or Instagram or whatever her social media is, and she's going to have instant validation. Well, that is true, but certain validation is more valuable than other validations. So a higher sexual market value guy, a guy who has more desirability, his attention is more valuable than the run-of-the-mill beta orbiter that most of these women have. I'm going to continue on with, where did it go with this one? Sorry, guys, let me move this in
again. But what I can say, going back to sort of the first part of this sort of 3-part thing, is that those meet cutes that I've had in my life happened The first one happened when I was very young. I was just barely 16 years old. And then they continued to happen, right? So the first one happened when I needed it, right? When developmentally I needed to have that happen.
Okay, this is important.
For my self-image, my self-esteem, my confidence. And then from then on, it just was kind of a normal thing. Like I never really thought much about it. Man, there's pretty crazy staticky wind here today. So here's the part that really makes me uncomfortable as I engage with the men of the manosphere. I get the feeling that there is a significant number of men who read red pill sites and engage these sites and these blogs and stuff who have never had one of those happen to them, never had the meet cute story, not once ever. And further, I get the feeling that if you haven't had that happen to you by a certain age, you probably never will. And I want to end this video on something positive because I am a positive thinking guy. I want people to win. I want people to get their goals met. I want men to meet cute girls and get married and have children and have a life and all stuff. I really want that. But I'm starting to get the feeling that some of this is it's like an immovable object, meets an irresistible force. Like I don't know where the dam is going to break there. When I think about those stories, those meet cute stories that have happened to me, over my lifetime, I didn't do anything to make them happen. I didn't embark upon some self-improvement project. I didn't think, oh, here's what I got to do to get girls. This just happened. And I couldn't tell you what happened. I couldn't tell you what it was. And so I don't know what to do about that. My sense is I want people who have been doing this for longer than me, like Rollo and Rich Cooper, to say, oh no, you got it all wrong. This is how we're going to get this to happen, right? Or this is how we get it to happen. These are some success stories or whatever. But if you get a chance, take a look at my latest blog post that I did for Sigma Frame, because it's actually kind of related to this topic. And when you read it, you'll see why. But, mostly I'm just going to kind of drop it at this point.
Okay. So that's good enough. All right. So we'll kill it at that point right there. So he made this is the second half of this that I wanted to talk about is a couple of things. Is if I think that a lot of guys, when they are in their sort of blue pill years, and a lot of guys have this story right now. I think this is kind of interesting because I can tell you right now that me personally, when I was 26, 27 years old, the way that I met my wife, I'm going to tell you guys just a quick hit story about how I met my wife. I met my wife at a gig. Okay. And it wasn't even my gig. It was a friend's gig. And she was out at a club let's just say it's Northern California. And I was there and hanging out with my friends and the guys who I knew who were in the band that was playing there. And this was probably after, a few months after I was done with my BPD girlfriend, and I was sort of getting my life together. And I really did not care one way or the other, whether I met somebody else or I didn't. I was going to go do what I was going to do. And I was as determined as I've ever been in my life up to that point. And I got there, I was waiting in line to grab a beer, and I see this group of girls, and they're there clearly on a girls' night out. I had not really pursued women all that much up to that point, because I wouldn't want to say I was in monk mode, because there wasn't really anything called monk mode, but I think I was just more self-determined and self-focused at that time. And I was waiting in line. One of the girls from that group pulls me out of the beer line, which I was pissed because it was a long ass line. And she says, "My friend wants to meet you. My friend wants to meet you." And I'm like, "Oh God, another drunk, skank, whatever." And she introduces me to one of the girls that was in their group. Now, she was like, oh, she thinks you're cute, blah, blah, blah. And I could tell she was like, this friend was a little bit too, actually, all of them were kind of tipsy. And she starts introducing me and asking my name. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get you a beer, whatever. And the girl that she introduced me to was in no way attractive to me. I mean, she was just very much overweight. And I was just like, oh, man, all it was just, it was an inconvenience. But it was nice to be like pulled out of a group and say, oh, you're hot. We'll, fool around with you, blah, blah, blah. And so I had been selected. That's pre-selection. That's really what he is describing here. It's the concept of pre-selection. And I had gone through that. I was used to it, right? I mean, or at least for the few years of my early 20s, I was definitely used to being pre-selected. But I didn't want to have anything to do with this girl. So I was just kind of trying to, politely blow her off. But I saw the woman who was my wife in this group. And I said, what about, so I felt like I was on a used car lot, I was like, what about that one over there? Like, who is that? And, she, they told me her name and I could tell she was interested. She was giving me IOIs, but, I had to pursue, because they were going off to another club, and it was either follow them there and pursue, or go home and drink, or go home and do whatever. And it was at that point that I said, you know what? Again, this is me sort of snapping back from my BPD girlfriend. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to see if I can make this happen. And I did. And I went down, I followed along. They told me what the club was. I drove down there. I happened to know one of the guys who was the concierge at the place. I'm sorry if this is getting boring, but you need to understand the process here, because I went down to this other club, and she's there with, like flirting with other guys and everything. And I went in there and I ran what anybody else would consider game. And was there already attraction? Yes, there was. But I would have lost that opportunity had I not exercised my will, had I not figured that out. See, the difference here, and of course, I'll just, and to end my story really quickly, I went up to her and I said, look, it's funny because I kind of pulled mode 1 on Mrs. Tomassi. I said, look, I said, I think you're attractive. I said, I think we should get together. And that's how I put it. I said, I think we should get together sometime. Like I was saying, this is me. I'm gonna be the one who's gonna pursue you. I think we should get together. It wasn't like, oh, please, can you give me your phone number? And I could tell that she wasn't. I think probably to this day, I'm still the only musician that she'd ever dated. Certainly the only guy like me that she'd ever dated, that she'd ever been attracted to. And I got her number, and then we went from there, and we dated non-exclusively for a long time. And then finally she decided she wanted to be exclusive. So that's the really elevator speech of how I met Mrs. Tomassi. But I pursued. Now, there had to be some sort of initial attraction there. There had to be some sort of initial, arousal, I guess. But this is a common question that a lot of guys have, particularly when it comes to game. How much should you pursue? Too much, and you look like you're needy and clingy, and oh please, like you have a scarcity mentality. Too little, and women like, well, who is this guy? They don't even know who you are, particularly now, because in this day and age, you're just a blip on her cell phone. Maybe that was different back in the day, but certainly now it's true. So how much should you really apply yourself? And I really think that this is sort of contextual, and that's one of the reasons why it's called pickup artistry. There is actually an art to understanding pickup, to understand social situations. This is why guys struggle with game, because they're not, most guys who get this aren't hitting me up. Most guys who understand women's nature, who understand pickup, who understand pickup without knowing that it's pickup, right? Like they have a game that is actually successful. Sometimes that game might just be like, oh, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and I didn't screw it up. That's your game. So here's the thing is, how much should you pursue? This is why I gave you the caveat at the beginning of this show. Okay. Are you going to pursue it all? If you are, well, then we can have a conversation. If not, then click out right now, because I'm going to talk about how you should or shouldn't pursue. I think that a certain degree of pursuit, such as it is, I don't know what else to call it, gaming a woman has a benefit. If for nothing else, it teaches you how to apply red pill theory. Game is the practice, theory, red pill is the theory. Each one is incomplete without the other. So if all you're doing is listening to me and reading my books and watching Rich and watching all this stuff, or getting into, what do you say, frequenting all these red pill blogs and everything, and you just getting it all in your head. Okay, I'm not saying that that's bad. That's good. Hey, I hope you do. I hope you understand all this good stuff, but it is worthless unless you go out and apply it. You have to find a way to apply it. Even if that's doing what this guy did, like not screwing it up. There is actually technique and an art that goes with not screwing things up, being congruent. Whether you don't I think most guys don't realize that they are actually engaging in game. They're just engaging in really bad game, unless they're not engaging at all. Let me see this. What do you say? I've had women give me the, oh, wait, are you already talked to you? Hang on one second. Let me move down a touch here. Juan Sebastian says, so if you're new and trying to learn game or really spin plates, where do you start and who's the best teacher out there? That's a really good question. I would say go check out, I'm going to go give John a plug really quickly. Modern Life Dating, Troy Francis. Those are going to be the first two guys I'm going to tell you to go check out. Also check out Kyle Trouble. They use those as your jump off point. A lot of guys, remember, game and PUA has evolved. It is not fuzzy hats and elevator boots and black nail polish anymore that everybody wants to make it out to be. It's not the boogeyman anymore. It's not the village people anymore. Okay, go check those guys out. That would be my best suggestion to you. Let's see. I'm going to move down a little bit more because I want to get to some of these here. Gimp Pimp says, does game create arousal? It can, but there has to be at least some kind of basis there. There's a terminology, old school PUA terminology, which is increasing buying temperature. You've got to have a buyer to begin with, but you can increase the buying temperature. I am not a big fan of overcoming last minute resistance. If there's resistance at all, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I would not say, oh, well, if you just I'm all for push pull. I'm all for playing the game. I'm all for women want to know that a guy gets it. The way that they know that you just get it is you have good rock solid game. You understand what a shit test is. You understand what cocky funny is. You understand what amuse mastery is. And the only way a woman figures that out is because you're playing game, because you're out there trying in some way to make yourself a little bit more attractive than the next guy that's there with you. Okay. It says, I'm in a chair. Okay. Face. And I use social proof game. They approach and IOI me a lot. Okay, well, good. That's good, man. It's good that you. 1 second, let me move. Does game cause arousal? I would say no, not initially, anyways. It can be let's say, a force multiplier. So if you're a cute guy and you're walking down the street, and this is how a lot of guys will run day game. You've got to have at least something that is attractive. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but there is a physical element to this. It is not the only element to attraction, to arousal. You have to have some kind of social congruency. You have to have that. Because you can be the hottest guy in the world, and if you are autistic and you're spurging out and you simply have low social intelligence, can you still get laid? Yeah, you can probably, but having the I don't want to say social graces. I'm trying to search for terms here, but you have to have congruency. You have to have something that if a woman sees you. If easy example of this, if you are a good looking guy, but you're goth, well, that gives a woman, like, what does a woman expect from a guy who's good looking? I mean, he's Robert Smith from The Cure, right? He looks cute, he looks hot, whatever you want to call him, but you're expecting him to behave in a certain way because of the way that he presents himself. Now, you could throw that all out the window if you want to, but that's the perception. I did an essay called "Have a Look" when I based it on a video by Adam Carolla, and actually just a talk between him. I think it was on his radio station or something like that. And he said this, and I think this is really profound, is that women are like casting agents. They're looking for a particular character, and they look for different characters at different times in their lives. So when guys hit me up and say, well, Rollo, I don't understand how this girl is into this tortured artist over here, and he's not jacked, and he's not the way that I would stereotypically say that a alpha male looks, but she's all over him and she can't get enough of him because that's what she's into, particularly at that time. That's part of her acculturation. There is a social aspect to attraction too. Okay. You have to be up on things, right? You have to be hip. You got to be up on what's going on with the kids these days, right? So you still have to be part of the contemporary style, contemporary fashion, contemporary, lingo, whatever it is. You still got to have at least some example of how you get it. I'm not saying you have to like whatever's going on today, but put it this way. If you are at, and this is a good example, if you're at like a heavy metal club or you're at a goth club and you're the only guy there in a 3-piece suit, that's what I'm talking about. Like you have to understand, like, when in Rome, do as Romans do, right? That's part of displaying social intelligence. And maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe your intent is to stand out be the purple cow, right? But you have to be rock solid about your congruency and who you are and why you're there and what you're doing. So again, that is part of game. It's part of understanding women's nature, understanding the red pill, and being able to apply it accurately. So I had a few other things here. So why is I'm going to run down my list here. I actually did prepare for today's show. I think I answered this. Is men's romantic success just predicated on a woman's initial attraction? I think that's where it starts, but I don't think that that's where it ends. Why is attraction not a choice? Well, there are from an evolutionary perspective, women have a much more stringent, much more strict ideal for male beauty. Along with that is that male beauty has to be accompanied by a man who gets it, who understands. There's still social aspect to that as well. What did you got here? So hypergamy includes women now openly going for bucks like sugar babies. Yeah. Part of it. That, remember, there's two sides to hypergamy. Okay, alpha fucks, beta bucks. What you're referring to is the second side of hypergamy. Game is response to alpha fucks, beta bucks, hypergamy spectrum. Yeah, in a way. Attraction's not a choice, but beta bucks can be attraction. It can, but remember that's accepting the transactional nature of that whole thing. And that's really where I wanted to go with this, is because he also brings up a very, I think, important distinction here, is that there are some guys, and maybe you guys picked up on this, there's some guys who never have that IOI. They never get that attraction. They never get that arousal they're not the guy that has ever in their lifetime aroused a woman, has been the guy that inspires genuine desire. And I've talked about this with Rich on a few occasions. I usually get into this topic when I'm discussing hypergamy, but in this case, what does that do to a guy? And I think that, and this is my theory, okay? This is my opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion right now. And that is that I think that with the rise of mass communication with the internet, we're becoming more and more aware of what has always been around. So I have talked to guys who hit me up and they'll say, Rollo, I'm 30 years old and I'm a virgin. How do I get laid? How do you get laid at 30? You go to the cat houses. That's how you get laid. If that's what you want to do, if it's about getting, and sometimes I would take this however you want to, tradcon man, but sometimes going and paying for sex to get past that sticking point might be what you need to do. Sorry to say, I'm not saying go out and just bang random street walkers. I'm just saying hire an escort and get laid. I got a good friend of mine, has been a blog friend of mine for a very long time. He goes by Advocatus Diaboli, Devil's Advocate. He runs a blog called Dissension Blog, and that has been his game for a long time. Whether you want to call it game or not, that's how he solves his reproductive problem, is he hires escorts. He's written about it quite extensively. And you can criticize the sugar babies. You can criticize the guys who go to, sex workers. I'm not saying go pick up some nasty disease-ridden whore that's on the street. I'm talking, you go to an escort, you go to maybe the brothels here in Nevada are highly regulated. Same thing with at least as far as I know, red light district in Amsterdam, and I think there's one up in British Columbia too, right? I mean, there's red light districts everywhere, right? In fact, we're trying to get like people will say, well, shouldn't we just legalize prostitution? Why is that even a discussion right now? Well, it's a discussion because hypergamy is above board now. If women say, okay, guys, you got us. It is alpha fucks, it's beta bucks, and you're the winner and you're the loser, and that's it. So what is the loser going to say? I say this all the time, is like the guys who are the top 20% versus the 80% of guys. It is not, hear me again, listen closely this time. It is not 20% of guys are fucking 80% of the girls. That is not how hypergamy works. 100% of women are interested in the top 20% of guys. 80% of guys are the ones who have to figure it out to some degree. They're the ones who have to figure out a way to get laid, a way to solve their reproductive problem. So how is that? Maybe sugar babies, is it? Maybe maybe you just go MGTOW, or maybe you just fuck dolls, and that's all you're ever going to do. Maybe you just don't want to deal with women and you have sex with them as with escorts. I don't know. You will find some way to release yourself. You will find some way to solve your reproductive problem, even if it isn't a real answer, even if it's not going to actually, you're not going to actually reproduce. That's why pornography is a big deal. Why is it ubiquitous and free right now? High 4K streaming, anything you want, guys. Oh, it's a government. It's a conspiracy. It's the U.S. government is behind Blacked and Brazzers and whatever else the name of I don't even know. But, okay, you can say that, but the fact remains is that the reason why those things are here, the reason why pornography is ubiquitous and free, is because men need to find a way to resolve their reproductive problem. That is why. So get used to it. What are you going to do about it is the next question. He is 100% right. This is where I agree with him 100%, is that there are certain guys who are never going to get it, or they'll say, I don't want to get it. Well, you're not going to get it. So how are you going to solve that problem? Are you going to go pay for it? Are you going to be a sugar daddy? Or are you going to jerk off to a cam girl and pay her all kinds of money and never see her in your whole life? Is that going to be satisfying to you? So you're going to try to find ways to, you have game. Like I said, every guy has game. Sometimes that guy's game might just be jerking off to porn. Oh, it works for me. And maybe it does. Maybe that's enough to keep you going, to get you through this life. I think it's kind of a backwards way to do it, but that's how you're going to do it. But guys will get to a point where, and this is the important part, because he was saying, there are guys who will never experience this, and that's kind of sad. And like he was saying, I'm the same way. I want to leave you guys with something that is uplifting and a positive message. I would very much love to do that. A lot of guys say, well, Rollo's just too pessimistic. He's too cynical. Well, I think a lot of people mistake my pragmatism for cynicism because they apply what it is that I'm saying to their own situations. And we're more aware of this now. I know that you guys probably know this, and you know this too, is there was probably those guys in high school that you knew. Maybe you hung out with them, maybe you didn't, but those guys were the losers. Those guys were the outcasts. Sometimes they, form their own little tribes. Sometimes they don't. There's always that guy, the nerdy guys who they are never going to get laid. No matter what, there's still going to be guys. There are winners and losers in this life. I'm sorry. I would very much love for everybody to be a winner. It'd be great. Here's your participation trophy, but that's not how things work. But you can increase your chances. Why not be the best version of yourself? Why not learn the game? Well, it's worthless. I don't want to do it. I'm just going to go pay for it. Okay. Then you better make a whole lot of money if that's how you're going to do it. And you have no position to be talking about how the way you're doing it is the only way to do it. I certainly wouldn't say, hey, in fact, I'm always very loath to use my own life as an example, even though I did today. But I don't do that because I don't want guys to get the impression that, all I got to do is whatever Rollo said to do, right? Oh, it's Rollo's 12 rules for life. Then I'll have a cute little wife and 2 dogs and a beautiful daughter. No, I'm not you. You're not me. So yeah, I mean, if that's your shtick, if you think that it's just about money, okay, I mean, go do that. But that's only half of understand that that's only half of it. That's you're understanding sex from a transactional nature. I listen to guys a lot who will say that money is the only thing that matters. Game is the only thing that matters. And I don't think game is the only thing that matters, by the way. Just because I'm talking about I'm trying to say, emphasize the importance of game in this podcast. I'm not saying that game is the only thing. It's all of those things, right? It's all of that stuff. I would say that some of them are more or less important depending on where you are in life and where women are in their particular, phase of maturity. But like I've said before, it's games, affluence, and looks. Have 2 at minimum. It's best to have 3, but have 2. And if you can only have 1, game is the one that is the most important. People will lose their minds when I say that. But if you have no social intelligence, that's what most women are looking for. You can be an ugly dude and still be funny. You can be an ugly dude and still be intelligent. You can be an ugly dude and still carry on a conversation better. Let me ask you this. We think of human beings in certain archetypes. When you see a big burly dude, there's this idea that the bigger a guy is, the stronger the guy is, the dumber he must be. It's the same thing for gorgeous, beautiful women, like girls who like overdo it, like with gigantic D cups, right, and blonde hair and blue eyes and Botox lips that just make them look like a Bratz doll. And we go, oh, she looks dumb. Like we don't even have to say that. We just assume that a good-looking girl that's that hot, that she must by default be stupid. We have other stereotypes, but those are like the stereotypes that I think we sort of collectively have in our head right now, that the bigger you are, the more he's a muscle-bound meathead. Girls want to jump his bones, but he's not as smart. And my dog is barking, or my dog is what do you want? You could come in here. Henry had x-rays, so just so you guys know, he's impatient right now. My bad. Oh wait, hold on. Is she over here? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna take a quick break. There she is. She's sleeping right now. That's Bam's dog cam time. All right, getting back to main topic. So what else do we have here? Thanks, Mosi. Is there anything else I missed? Did I miss any more, Sam? I don't think I'm seeing any more here. All right. So So that's the part of it I wanted to talk. The other part is validational sex. Yeah, she is very fast. She was a champion racer. Um, the the other part that I wanted to get to is transactional sex versus validational sex. And I've done shows on this before, so I'm not going to dig too deeply into that. But are there guys who get stuck because they did not experience something at a point in their lives where they should have experienced those things? That's what he's getting at here, is that there's going to be guys who are going to be the 40-year-old version. They're going to be, maybe I'm going to open up a can of worms with this, and I'm sure I probably will, but I wrote an essay called You Need Sex. And particularly guys who are not getting sex really hate that one, because they want to say, the first thing out of their mouths is, well, you don't need sex. It's not like it's food or water or oxygen or whatever. And I'm like, no, to be a successful organism on planet Earth, you must reproduce. You have a reproductive problem. So yes, you need food, you need water, you need everything that you said for your physical existence. But other than that, beyond that, the next thing you need sex. And you need to find a way to get to it. You need to find a way to solve your reproductive problem. And as we open up our global communication, our mass media, and hypergamy is no longer a secret, you as a guy have to find ways to adapt. That's really what PUA is, or used to be anyways. Now it's morphed into something else. But you have to find methodologies and adaptations to do this. And that's really what intersexual dynamics sort of boils down to, is one mating strategy is adversarial to the other. So women are looking for the best thing that they can get, whether it's alpha fucks and beta bucks. Hopefully they find it in the right guy. Increasingly they can't. And I have argued that women don't expect to find it in men, so they don't even look for it in the same man. There's one kind of guy that they fuck, and there's one kind of guy that they marry. And maybe if they could find that, great, but it's happenstance if they do. So generally what women do is they look for the hottest guy that they can get when they are in their party years. And then when they hit their epiphany phase, that's when they start looking for the guy who's the good provider or the good dad. Dads versus cads. So you get guys like what I call late-term virgins. You get guys who are, and women do this too, but like some do, but mostly it's men. And they find ways to justify why it is that they're still, you will build social conventions for yourself around your necessities. It's called making your necessity a virtue. And so when you get guys who say, oh, I'm waiting for marriage, well, are you? Or is it just that you simply can't get laid and it is more, I guess, psychologically satisfying for you to create these sort of mental frameworks for yourself to say that, well, I'm a good guy because I didn't do these things. I'm self-righteous because I didn't get laid. Well, like I think it was Jordan Peterson says this, like, it's good to have strength, it's good to have all this stuff, it's good to be you're only really alpha when you actually have the power and you resist using it. Well, how do you ever know that you actually can do that? I've used this example before, is like, it's one thing to be able to be a black belt and beat other guys' asses, but you're black belt and you're well trained and you don't go around saying, I'm going to go beat your ass. You don't do that because you have some sort of ethical obligations, but no one knows that you're a badass unless they see you fight. Now that's with violence and anything else, but that's not, I mean, the from the terms of, I'm confident, but how do I show you that I'm confident? Is it by my words? Is it by me beating your ass? Is it by me, having lots of girls? How do you display that? How do you exemplify that confidence? So there's going to be guys, and I'm sure, particularly in the manosphere, you're going to run into guys who don't have the social intelligence that a lot of guys do. And I think that what happens is those individuals tend to try to tear down alphas. And I'm working on a post right now in my drafts folder, and it's called Why We Fight. And it's about intra-sexual combat, how men fight with other men in the long term. I'm not talking about a fist fight, although I do get into physical violence too, but like, I'm not talking about a fist fight. I'm talking about how men compete intrasexually, how we try to undermine each other, how and oftentimes we undermine one another without knowing that we're undermining each other. We do it because it is what our mental firmware evolved for. And so when we see certain things, when we're made aware of certain stimuli, it's like you're never going to, this is never not going to be the case, is that you're never going to have like beta guys who are sort of these sort of social outcasts, the geeky like it's nerds versus jocks, right? You're always going to have that dynamic in humanity. There will always be the guys who are the beta males who are going to hate the alphas. And I don't mean that as like, oh, they're all jocks. No, there's in every subculture and every, human dynamic, I guess, you're always going to have that dynamic going. You're always going to have and women are always going to fight amongst themselves for the best mates as well. Why do men mate guard? Because on our species consciousness, we understand, I think, it's accepting it. That's the problem. But I think we, on a hindbrain level, understand how human beings compete. I'm of the opinion that everybody is not out to get you, but everybody is out for themselves, and that comes out in our behaviors, our unconscious behaviors. So does game work? I would say yes. I think it just sort of depends on your definition of what game is. Should you even use it? Should you even bother with it? Maybe you should just be doing your looks maxing, right? And I would say one of the first things I tell guys is like when you are when you're unplugging and you've decided that you want to maximize your potential with women, then first place you got to head is the gym. You get yourself in shape, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. I mean, primarily it's because you want to look better, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to look better. And thanks, man. One Man's Way says, right now I'm trying to stay non-exclusive, trying spinning plates, and my first plate wants me to not even be nice to other girls. Problem is, when we talk about it, my blue pill thoughts kill my confidence. Okay, so any tips? Okay, so this is good because we talked about this yesterday on Rule 0, is how you need to kill the beta. You need to be so effing confident of yourself that you don't care what she has to say. The fact that she'd even ask you to do something like, oh, you just should be a dick to these girls because you're with me. This is mate guarding. Mate guarding of the woman of you, but that is mate guarding. So she's trying to get you to police yourself. This almost sounds like a BPD situation. I'm not saying it is. I don't know enough, but that is a BPD tactic, is to convince you that you need to police yourself. There's something wrong with you. And if you don't police yourself, then I doubt your sincerity and your commitment to me. First of all, if you're spinning plates, why is any plate dictating anything to you? Don't even consider, why are you even asking me this question? If you're spinning plates, you put that one on ice and you go and you entertain others. You go with the others. When we talk about my blue pill thoughts kill my confidence. Yeah, you know why? Because you still have blue pill thoughts, because you have not internalized the red pill and you don't believe it. You know that part remember that part in the Matrix where Morpheus says he's beginning to believe. You're not there yet. You haven't begun to believe. I hate coming back to that damn movie because it's so friggin' accurate about so many different things. But when I talk about internalizing the red pill, internalizing red pill awareness, you'll know when you have internalized it, when it becomes second nature. There's a saying, like when you're learning a new language, you dream, it starts to become something for you. You dream in the language. So if you're learning Spanish, Spanish becomes how you interpret, like I guess the language of your dreams, whatever. And so your initial reaction is not to think about communication in your native language. It is in the language that you're trying to learn. That's how you become fluent in it. That's how it becomes something that's a part of you. Like native speakers of Spanish and English, they can, that's how you get Spanglish, right? That's you can go from one to the other, to the other, to the other, in the same conversation. And what's funny is when you're with somebody who actually understands it and can speak Spanglish back to you as well. That's what I'm saying, is that it has to be that degree of internalization. So it has to be your first thought. It has to be like, when I talk about mental point of origin, I mean that in the terms of you have to become the first thought that enters into your brain. And if you're telling me right now, if you're typing this out and saying, my blue pill thoughts kill my confidence, it's your thoughts, right? So it has to go from, and another good idea when it comes to game and red pill awareness is it has to go from not being an act anymore, not just being about game, to being how you think. So what you need to do is, you first of all, put this one on ice. I don't know why you'd even be entertaining this one if you have other ones. Let her come to her own conclusions. If she, guys will say this as well, I'm afraid to lose this plate. Never be afraid to lose a plate. It's what is it? Andrew Tate, comply or goodbye. Either she's there with you and she wants to be a part of your frame, or she doesn't. And you know what? If she's there and she doesn't want to be part of your frame, you don't want her there. You don't want her in your roster. I'll tell you that right now. Thanks for that, man. What else? I guess I'll do some of these right now. I still have a few things I wanted to touch upon. Mosi says, is it okay to date a woman for an LTR when her dad has never been a part of her life? He is in jail for drug abuse most of his life and is about to get released. Thanks. That's a red flag. You know, we talk about daddy issues all the time. Why are you with that chick anyways? Like, how you should be spinning plates, dude. And I'm looking at your picture right here. You need to be concerned with yourself first off, and then second off, you need to be spinning more plates. An LTR, and you look like you're maybe late 20s or 30s. I don't know. I could be wrong, but at this stage, you shouldn't even be thinking about a long-term relationship, and certainly not one who has a bad relationship with her dad. Or you know, I'm not saying that you should disqualify all women that are like that. They can't help with that, what that's about, but understand that her model for conventional masculinity, her model of any masculinity for that matter, is based on the guy who was her father. And if masculinity, her best example of masculinity from the time she was a kid to where she is right now, if her best model of masculinity is a guy who is in jail for drug abuse, well, I think a lot of guys think this way. They think that, well, she's damaged, she's got daddy issues, but I'm going to be the guy that is going to change her mind about guys. I'm going to be the guy that's going to be the one who's going to take care of her like her dad never did. No, you're not. Get that out of your head right away. Okay. I'm not saying that all women who have daddy issues are just like bad news and you're never going to be able to make anything work out with them, but you do need to remember that that is where she started. Her idea of conventional masculinity is whoever her dad was, or her impression of whoever the strongest male in her life was. I've been talking about this lately with some of the guys, is that women tend to be impressed upon, or they form, what is it? It's there's a psychological terminology for this. I can't remember. Maybe it's the template that they imprint upon for certain. I mean, humans do this. Not just say women. Okay, I'm not gonna pick on women, but human beings do this. Is that for or even other animals do this. I think there was like in behaviorism, I think there was I forget the guy, he pretended to be like a baby, or excuse me, a mother animal, like a mother bear or something, and the bears imprint that human that's dressed up or is pretending to be the mother, they imprint on that human. And so if it's a human and there's little baby ducklings, the baby ducklings look to the human for food and protection and all the things that a mother duck would have provided. And so they follow along the human, and they think that the human, oh, he looks like he's mother. they another example I just saw recently was there's a a monkey, not a chimp. It was like I think this must have been in like Southeast Asia or India or something. There was a monkey. I saw this video, and the monkey had a baby human, like a little, like a toddler or something, and grabs the toddler and starts petting the toddler and like picking the nits out of the toddler and pretending as if the human, the baby human, was a baby monkey. And so she was, protecting it too. So the real mother was trying to take the baby away, and the monkey mother was like trying to claw at the real mother because she had imprinted upon herself that this baby was her baby. And that's the instinct. That's mental firmware, right? I mean, that's what we're programmed to do. That's your operating system when you come out of the womb, is those kinds of things. So you're going to imprint upon yourself. And that's just one example. It could be about motherhood, it could be about, this is masculinity, this is femininity, this is what babies are, this is what this is, anything, particularly anything that pertains to survival benefits. So maybe that helps you, maybe it doesn't, but that's something you need to keep in mind. Actually, I think something everybody needs to keep in mind when it comes to dating women with daddy issues. Let's see, what else do we have here? I got a bunch. You guys, now you're throwing them at me. Okay, I guess we'll do super chats now. You got me. Are you an asshole to your wife? I like that one. Or are you nice to her? Are you concerned with keeping your wife's attraction towards you? Yes and no. I am, what is the word? I'm assertive, right? I'm authoritative. I think that when you are learning, and this is going to sound really bad, but I think that when you are learning how to be a good parent, and if you've ever taken any parenting classes, or if you know anything about child psychology, one of the things they try to emphasize is that you shouldn't be an authoritarian, parent, and you shouldn't be like a doormat. You shouldn't be a permissive parent, but you need to be an authoritative parent, somewhere in between those two. God, I wish I had Dr. Sean Smith with me right now. And I think that applies to women as well. And like guys will say, well, just treat women like they're children. No, I wouldn't say that, but I understand why you would think that, because as a guy, if you're in your frame, you need to be authoritative. You need to be the guy that, like, if she's, you can be an asshole about things, but you need to be the guy that she has some sort of, maybe not hesitancy, but some sort of respect when she's trying to ask you for something. An asshole to me. I'm not an asshole to her. But I'm not like, I know I would love to give you some sort of fantasy situation where I'm like, I'm the happy medium, but I'm not. If I'm pissed off, she knows something is eating at me, or if I'm in a different mood for some reason, she can pick up on that. I mean, we've been together for almost 24 years. Dating, we've been together for about 25 and a half years, but almost 24. Come July, we will. Am I nice to her? Yeah, of course I'm nice to my wife. I love my wife very much. But I know what the nice card buys, and I know what the asshole card buys. And the asshole card tends to buy more than the nice guy card. So am I concerned with keeping her attraction towards me? I used to be. I think right now I'm sort of on an autopilot with respect to my wife's attraction towards me. I think that, here's the thing. Excuse me. God damn it. Now I need to get another coffee here. When you get into a long-term relationship, the attraction side is more or less settled, unless you really screw up. Unless, like we were just talking, I was talking about this with who was it? Suzanne Venker. And she was going into how, or she was trying to do some sort of study or some sort of analysis on why it is that when a woman gets a promotion at work, that tends to be the catalyst for divorce. Now, of course, they never wonder why, who's initiating the divorce. That would be a bridge too far. No, they just get divorced when. So we're left to presume for ourselves that it must be insecure, ego fragile men who are filing for divorce because they're, oh, my wife made more money than me, I'm going to go file for divorce. Yeah. That's what they expect you to think about men, is that when that happens. But the dynamic is this, is that when a woman makes more money than a guy, she might not lose arousal for that guy if the guy is good looking enough. And here's where we go back to alpha fucks beta bucks. So now she's got you've got sort of the quotient, I guess. Like, what's your balance? Are you, if you had to rate yourself, I think if guys need to rate themselves, like we talk about HB10 or whatever, I think we, as guys, we sort of have to say, well, how arousing am I as a guy, and how attractive am I as a guy? And when a woman gets a boost in pay, or she gets moved up to a different, level, or whatever it is, what she was attracted to you in the first place for, maybe it was some reason why she decided to marry you in the first place. All of that gets thrown up in the air now. So you might have been attractive enough to marry and to want to settle down with and have kids, and now you're not. But are you arousing enough? Are you somebody that she still gets hot for, in spite of all of that? I would wonder. I would like to look to see some sort of longitudinal study that investigates like the couples that stay together after a woman gets a promotion, and the ones that divorce, and what are the commonalities, and why did that happen? I would say that, and this is me just prognosticating here, I would say that that the couples that stay together, the guy was still very alpha and still very arousing, somebody that woman, in spite of her getting a promotion or whatever, putting her into a new social status, still finds him attractive enough to really want to have sex with them all the time. That, remember, sex is the glue that keeps relationships together. Get that through your head. So just to answer your question, am I concerned about keeping my wife's attraction? Not attraction? No. Do I go to here's the thing. People ask me this all the time. They'll say, well, you go to the gym, and yeah, I work out. I'm in good shape. I weigh 163 pounds and I'm 5'11". Actually, I'm underweight, if anything. I've never, I have never done a show or a blog post. Something I've never done a blog post about is like my workout routine. I've been doing a max OT routine for a while. That was what my body responded to the best. I don't do those things because there's guys who do it better than I do. I'm not a personal trainer. I just know it works for me. My brother was an amateur circuit bodybuilder back in the 90s. And that's where I learned a lot about nutrition, about working out. But I didn't have to learn all that to understand why it's important to be in good shape. I worked out and I stayed in good shape because I wanted to get laid. And I like sex so much that I don't want to ever see myself fat and having sex. I want to like what I see, well, like, not be. Here's the thing: is if you look at yourself in the mirror and you like what you see, you're sunk. There has to be something that you don't like about yourself. There has to be somewhere where that you have some room for improvement. You've got to be able to do something with that. But when it comes to attraction with my wife, I don't worry about attracting because I know where I'm at with my wife. I concern myself really about arousal, like making sure that I'm in good shape, making sure that I'm still playing on dread, make sure that I'm still playing occasionally. It's not like I go, well, it looks like it's the 22nd of February. It's time to apply some dread. Here we go. That's not how I think. It's just like, it's sort of, I know, natural, I guess, for me now. What else do I have here? Carl Bennington, thank you again. Running game and deal with a BFS. What is a BFS? Does it make a boyfriend insecure if he tries to fight me? Oh, running game and deal with a lot with a boyfriend. Something I know what BFS means, brother. Does it make the boyfriend insecure if he tries to fight me? She said she wants to see me. She said she wants to see me. Should I walk away? How to deal with a girlfriend who has guys flirting with her? Don't deal with it. I'm going to go Andrew Tate on you here and say next. Don't deal with it. If that's your boundary, if she is interested, if she's flirting with, here's the thing. Is she flirting with a guy, or is the guys flirting with her trying to take her away from you? This is where you get into the mate guarding situation. Is she flirting with these guys? Is the interest on her part, or is the interest on their part? That's the thing. Why are you in those situations where there would be a guy that would be swooping on your chick, right? If you can answer this question, is she the one that's the interested party? Then next. So that's easy. If it's other guys that are trying to swoop on her, all you have to do is make sure that you are the guy that she wants to be with, that she's making the choice to be with. That's what Andrew Tate's situation is. Like, the women who are in his life are there because they choose to be there. Really great book. Read this, Promiscuity by Tim Burkhead. There's actually a lot of I think it's on page, I even have the page marked here. I think it's 47. Okay, here it is. This is I'll just read this really quickly to you. This is from Tim Burkhead's Paternity and Protection. It says, although female sexual monogamy, which from now on I'll refer to as female monogamy, is the exception rather than the rule, examining the conditions under which females are genuinely monogamous can be enlightening. Here's the deal. Monogamy can occur either because a female chooses to remain faithful to one male, or as a consequence of a particular lifestyle. So that's a good, this is not just about human beings. This is about animals. So the female is there because she chooses to be. And you can go run me up the flagpole for Briffelt's law here if you'd like, but she chooses to be there where there's a lifestyle choice or condition where she cannot leave. In this case, she can leave. Is her genuine desire for you, or is it for, the attention she's getting from other guys? If you're spinning plates and you are the alpha that other women are sharing, then if she leaves, who cares? You have other options. Maintain more options. The reason you're concerned with this at all is because you don't have any other options. Keep that in mind. Let's see. Any advice on ways to internalize the red pill? Yes. Keep reading my books as much as possible and hand them out. All your friends. No. Ways to internalize the red pill. You have to live it. You have to get, like, for a while, most guys, when you're trying to learn to play guitar, you have to keep doing your scales. You have to practice all the time. You have to repetition, right? You have to keep doing things. Like right now, I can pull this guitar off the back wall here and I can play just fluidly. I can make it do what I want it to do because I understand the instrument. I've learned how to play, but also I've learned how to improvise. I've learned how to use it as a tool of expression, because for now it's second nature. But that came through practice and a love for it, of course, too. But it came through practice. And so the best way, I think, to internalize a red pill is to make sure that you put it into practice and you are sort of seeing through your red pill lens, which is really easy, I think, for most guys right now. But it has to be, and don't feel bad about this, because a lot of guys will say, well, that's just rote memorization and it's just an act. Well, the fake it till you make it thing. But it's just an act for a while until it becomes your natural. I wish I had some shortcut, man. There is no shortcut to internalizing the red pill. You have to put it into practice every day. And then you have to have at least some sort of insight about what your new way of thinking and also how you're applying it. So I would say just keep in mind that practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes, what's the other? I forget now. I fucking forgot the maxim. Doesn't make perfect, but it makes possible. That's what it is. Practice makes possible. So just all I can say, the best way to do it is to just to keep applying it. Well, I'm 37. Damn, really? You look a lot younger, brother. You look way younger. Is it okay to date an ex-stripper? Dude, so wait a minute. Just a minute ago, you were saying that she has dad. Okay, so is this the same chick? Because this is like, is it okay to date a woman in an LTR when her dad has? So you're dating an ex. Hopefully these aren't the same chick, but maybe they are. Is it okay to date a woman whose dad is in jail for drug abuse? And she's an ex-stripper. You might have added that on the last one. I'll tell you something about strippers. I've dated 2 strippers in my life. Now this was back in the late, well, no, actually both of them were in the early 90s. And one of them was just sweet as could be. I can't say anything bad about her, but the other one was the stereotypical girl with daddy problems, and was probably, she never said she was abused, but I could tell she was probably abused, or else it was that, or her dad ended up being the alpha. That I'm not gonna say that she was widowed from, but she was the alpha for whom she was always trying to get the approval of, even though she said she hated his guts. Her behaviors and her life history was such that he certainly wasn't a strong, influence in her life. And as much as she hated the guy, she kept trying to, in her relationships, turn the guys that she was with into that dude, into the guy whose approval she was trying to get, because now that guy's gone. He wasn't the guy. Okay. When a girl is a stripper and she's like, say, and I'm not saying all strippers are like this, I'm just saying, when a woman is a stripper and she chooses that as her lifestyle, or she chooses, like nowadays, stripping is sort of mundane compared to like online stripping or chatterbait or Snapchat or whatever, Instagram modeling. But what I found, and you guys can debate this if you'd like, but what I find is that strippers who have daddy issues, usually it's because that daddy was either completely gone, or he was this overbearing guy that when she was a little girl, she was sort of beholden to that guy, and he was somebody for whom she was an authority figure to her. And so as that, she's trying to find ways to make daddy happy. Sometimes it might be an overbearing mother. This happens also with young men as well. But what happens is, now that little girl is now 22 years old and she's a stripper. The guy who made that impression upon her when she was like 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe even her teens or something like that, that guy's gone. But the image of that guy, the perception of that guy, the model of that guy still exists in her brain. Whether she acknowledges, whether it's cognitive or not, it still exists in her brain. That's the kind of guy, that's the guy I have to look to for authority, who has, maybe he's an asshole, maybe he's overbearing, maybe he's socially unacceptable, but she's still looking for that guy. And if that's the game you want to play just to get to the hot monkey sex, more power to you. But bear in mind that the guy she's trying to impress, the guy that she wants to master her, is that guy who's still fresh in her brain at 22, who made that impression when she was like 7 or 8. Keep that in mind. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. What else do we got here? Oh, I already answered that one. I'm looking for these other ones. We're already at 2 hours. Gosh, I had no idea I would go this long. I was only going to do like 90 minutes today. What do you have here? Please do book or rational male post for 45 to 65-year-old men group, stage after divorce, kids, career, exit through retirement, for men with experience with women, but are options adjustment in the modern feminine world. Guess what, dude? Good news for you. I already did that. It's in my 3rd book, and it is actually also for free if you don't want to spend the $13 on the book. I give and I give, man. I've already written that. It's called what is it? The Reconstruction. And I wrote it almost exactly what you're talking about here. It's guys who are 45 to 65 years old, and they're trying to find some way to sort of reconstruct their lives. So either pick up my third book, which is Positive Masculinity, read that, and that you'll find it in I think the last third of the book. You'll find it there. And if $13 is too much to put you out for your $10 super chat here, you can go find just the reconstruction on my blog, therationalmale.com, and just type in reconstruction into the search engine, and you will find those. That's already been done, man. Check it out. Haven't you learned yet that there? Ooh, is that God? I guess I'm gonna have to go get some stickum. Well, with that, let's go. I just put this stuff back up there. That's funny as hell. All right. So, anyways, I think I got to everybody. Did I get to everybody here? Did I get to everybody? Oh, wait, here it is. Chad Worthington, $50, man. Thank you for that, my friend. Where did that go? I missed that one. There it is. Chad Worthington says, with gaming, you constantly need to entertain her. Yes and no. Depends on how you go about it. Like a clown entertaining, right? Okay, so this is dancing monkey theory. If you don't do anything exciting, they lose interest. It's kind of childish. It's like they need you to stimulate them with dopamine hit. Okay, yes and no. You need to be her drug dealer. That is true. Women need indignation. There is I think a physical need for women to feel indignation. This is why shows like The View and the Tyra Banks show and daytime talk shows for women exists, because they like what guys would consider like cringeworthy. Women like crave that. They need that. There is, well, I think, gosh, this is also roller coaster theory too. Dalrock has a really great, I'll just paraphrase really quickly. Women need is the stimulation is there, yes, for sure, but it's not something that I think that a lot of guys think that has to be constant all the time. So if you are the guy for whom she associates those feelings for, it doesn't mean that you have to have it all. It's not like you have to go skydiving every time you have a date with a girl. Okay. It's not like you have to go rock climbing, or you have to go risk your life, put your head inside the lion's mouth every time you go out on a date. Like, you got to escalate, right? It's not like porn, where it's like you're jerking off to this. Okay, now we're gonna go do anal prolapse porn. All right, you escalate everything up until you can't do it anymore. It's not always like that. I think that is a binary response to what game actually is. But I do understand what you're talking about. I have a couple of posts. The one that probably relates to this best is called Dancing Monkey Game, and like, a lot of guys think that if you do anything to entertain a woman, then you are therefore a pussy beggar. You are therefore a dancing monkey, and you can never keep it going. Even Roosh talked about this for a while. You have to be a constantly entertaining clown. And yeah, in the beginning, you have to find some way to create an emotional response in women. That isn't something that you have to constantly keep maintaining. You do, if you go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. If you're constantly gaming all the time and you're trying to build a roster of women, like, let's say, like, when you're first starting out, I can totally understand why people think, it's all dancing monkey. You're doing everything for her entertainment, and you're like a clown. And if you don't make her laugh, then she's going to go on to the next one. Yes, but after a while, when you get into a situation with that person, you have to find ways to be her indignation drug dealer. So just your presence becomes something that is a dopamine hit, I guess. After a while, you don't have to be the entertaining guy. You don't have, like, if you're with a woman who is already familiar with you, that's where, like, a lot of women lose interest when they get into a relationship, or they get into a marriage or something like that, especially when you get a woman who is still in her party years and she decides to marry a guy. Why is it that the younger that a couple marries, that those relationships, those marriages tend to be bound for divorce? You get married to a woman who's like, you're 19 and she's 20 or whatever. You guys are both like young. Though statistically, I can show you the numbers. Statistically, those marriages don't last. So there is that. Other thing is well, women who have higher notch counts, those marriages, women who have a higher number of sexual partners tend not to be able to form healthy relationships or healthy attachments to the guy that they end up marrying. Is it because that guy is not entertaining anymore? I think there's probably a little bit of that, but it's because women tend to be more, it's more likely that a woman with more notch counts has the potential to be an alpha widow. So what are you going to do about it? Just give up. I'm just going to give up the game. Forget it. You have, well, God damn it, man. Let me, I gotta call this up. I have to call this up for this one here really quickly. This is, no, the triteness of hating. What is it? There it is. This is The Unbearable Triteness of Hating by our good friend, the classic. Actually, wait a minute. I'm going to grab that one too. The Unbearable Triteness of Hating is from actually Dancing Monkey. There we go. Ha, good. So here it is. This is from The Unbearable Triteness of Hating. This is what's called Dancing Monkey Hate. Okay. In fact, I'm going to give you guys this link in the chat here in just a second. Dancing Monkey Hate is this. The hater says, men who run game are just doing the bidding of women. Alphas don't entertain women, right? You shouldn't have to entertain women. We shouldn't have to run game. Women should just love you and want you automatically. Here's what Royce says. He says, if you want success with women, you are going to have to entertain them one way or the other. The same is true of women. Once a woman stops entertaining men with her body, her femininity, and her commitment worthiness by getting fat, old, ugly, bitchy, or single mommy, she stops having success with men. We are all doing the bidding of our biomechanical overlord, and on our knees to his will we surrender by force or by choice. You fool yourself if you believe you have some plenary indulgence from this stark reality. Or if you can't beat them, join them. If that's not what you want to do, if you don't want to entertain women, then don't. Go monk mode, go do whatever you're going to do, go pay for pussy, go do whatever you want to. But at some point in your life, you are going to have to entertain women. You're going to have to be at least an enjoyable person to sit there and be with. The thing that throws guys off today about this is that they think they have to do it constantly. They think that it has to be a constant act in a constant state because you're competing with the guys on her phone. You're competing with a, so there comes a point. I'm not saying that you shouldn't entertain women. You should. If you're going to run game, you should entertain. If you want to get with hotter and hotter women, you're going to have to find a way to relate with women. That doesn't mean that once you get to that point that you have to keep that up and you have to constantly keep that up. Because if that's where you're at right there, then that says something about you, and that says something about the game that you're trying to pull, right? If it's constantly an act and not who you are. I had the guy ask me a minute ago, how do I game my wife? No, I do not game my wife. Am I worried about her attraction? No, I'm not. I'm not worried about those things anymore because I know who I am and I know what I'm about. Right. I know that the things that I do are going to be about what it is that I want. Here's the thing is this is like when you make yourself your mental point of origin and when you are the one that is and you're the one into whom she comes into your frame, right? If she wants to be a part of your frame and you adopt this idea of, like Tate says, comply or goodbye, the things that you do, the actions you do, the things that you're interested in, the places that you're going, the world that you're creating becomes that amusement park for her. That becomes entertaining for her. You become somebody that she's happy to be in that relationship with. Do you think the chicks that like follow along with like Tate or Dan Blitzerian, that you think they don't want to be there? Like people say, well, they're just paid models. Well, they're there because of their because of choice. They're there because they want to be there. They're there because his lifestyle and who he is entertaining to them, and it keeps them going. Right? It's something that, yeah, there's an entertainment factor. At some point, women are going to just say, okay, well, I'm looking for more comfort than I'm looking for entertainment all the time. There is a point where women look for comfort. Remember, it's alpha fucks and beta bucks. There is a comfort side. There is a need for provisioning. There is a need for protection, and there is a need for security, long-term security. So that's the thing, is like, what's more important to that woman? Like, when a woman is overly stimulated by entertainment and all this other stuff, and she wants comfort, there's those chicks. And then there's the girls who are just bored out of their skull with the beta schlub that they married, and they would love to be that girl who's at the parties with Dan Blitzerian. God, man, now you guys are throwing these at me. Okay, these are the last ones. Okay. Billy, thank you for that, my friend. I'm 20. How can I outcompete older guys? My SMV is low due to my age, and I think older guys have an advantage over me. They do. Girls in my age prefer older guys. 20 years old, yeah, they do. And you know why they do, Billy? Is because they are just now understanding the true agency that they have with guys, with older guys. They're like, it's one thing to have a guy who, like, say you've got a woman is 23 years old. She's at her peak sexual market value years. She's not going to, like, women don't look for guys who are younger than them unless they are just looking for the alpha fuck side of things. That's where your advantage is, by the way. You need to be read my, well, first of all, read my first book, but also read my second book, because the second book will give you the timeline of what women are looking for, usually at different stages of their life. At your age, let's just say, let's just take a few years here. Let's just say from 20 to 25. Women are primarily looking for guys who are hot. They're looking for party year sex. They're looking for the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun. That's what they're looking for. Are they looking for an older guy? Yeah, generally women look for older men, because hypergamy is looking for a made guy. Hypergamy wants a turnkey man. They want a guy who's already made. They want a guy who has already got a lot of money, is already hot, and is already the perfect package for them. If they can find that guy and they can in some way feasibly get that guy, that's what they're going for. That is not what most women can get. So by level of comparison, by level of compromise, depending on who you are and who she is, primarily women are looking for older guys. What was it? Statistically, women look for guys anywhere between 5 to 7 years older than they are. So what do you do at 20 years old? How do you outcompete those guys? Play to your strengths. Read my second book so you understand what you're getting into with women in that particular demographic. But also, I want you to read The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, because I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Art of Seduction. I think that a lot of what he talks about is really valuable to guys. There's other parts of it where I'm kind of like, a lot of like what he talks about, like identifying with women. He advocates for identity game, which is something that I've always been against, is like creating. I do believe it's important, particularly with game. It's important to understand how women think, but not to think like a woman. So I'm not saying, like, it's important for you to know like women's thought process, like how they interpret their interpretive process, and instinct, emotion, and reason. Very important. But don't start thinking like women. Don't start, oh, I'm going to change myself so that I'm more woman-like, because if I'm more woman-like, then women will love me. That is the key to disaster. So, so how do you outcompete them? First of all, read that. Figure out like what the kind of girls that you're dealing with. Figure out what they like, what their types are. Like what, and if you read that book, you'll understand what I'm saying. Like what is their game? Like the girls that you want to get with, what is their game, and what are your strengths, and what are the strengths that you can play to? If you're 20 years old, you got no excuse not to be in really like being into stellar shape right now. Because that, I'll tell you right now, older guys get, the harder it becomes for them to stay in shape unless they have like just rock hard commitment to it. And quite honestly, in the United States, what is it? 68, 69% of the American population is already overweight. How do you beat 70% of guys in the United States? You be in shape. That's how you start. Learn game, understand things. I would say read my second book and read Art of Seduction. Those will give you some ideas. Yes, they do prefer older guys. How are you going to work your way around that? You got to be the guy that you have to be the alpha fucks guy for right now. Anyways, if you want to spin plates between the ages of 20 and 30 years old, I would suggest that you apply your game based on the presumption that women will want to get with you because they want to have sex with you. When you get to be later in life, like say 27, 28, 29 years old, then you might want to shift a little bit. Again, I get into this in the second book, so go read that. Who else? And these are the last ones, please. I'm going to make announcements here and then everybody will scatter, right? Chris B, thanks for that $10. John Garcia, thanks for $2. You guys are awesome. You guys are so awesome. I know it's only $2, but I thank everybody. I missed your super chat. What was your super chat? Nicodemus. Actually, I got it back here. Sorry. I did miss your super chat. Okay. This was your super chat. Nicodemus. $9.99. Oh, thank you. Girl at work. I'm 36. She's 40. Okay. Here's I won't read any further. That's your problem right there. Went after her hard at work, asked her out next week, said she'd get a babysitter without being asked. Never panned out. She follows and waits around for me at work. Why? Probably. Okay. I don't know. I'm probably going to get this wrong. First off, you're 36. She's 40. Don't do that. That's your first advice. Just next this person. And it sounds like you might have already. And so your confusion is, well, I nexted her and what'd you say? Next week said she had a babysitter. She'd get a babysitter without being asked. The whole thing never panned out. She follows and waits around for me at work. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because what happened is you weren't her first priority. If a woman wants to fuck, she will find a way to fuck. Particularly if a woman is 40 and she's a single mother, which I presume she is. I don't know the situation here. You're probably going to say, no, man, she's into poly lifestyle. I didn't tell you that. Ha, ha, ha. No, I'm going to go by the information that you give me here. Again, you're 30. There's 4 years difference. There's no way you should be even entertaining this whatsoever. So that's your first advice. The second advice is the second observation. I'll give you a little consideration here because I missed it. It didn't pan out because she probably had another option that was going and she wanted to see if that option would pan out. It didn't. And now you're the next option. You're the plan B. I have a post that's called Plan B. Go look it up. It is exactly what I talk about. Women keep guys in the kitty, right? One thing that really pisses off women about Royce's was it 16 Commandments of Poon, is that he says that always keep one in the kitty, always spin plates, always have, more options on the table because you're in a better position to make things pan out and work out for you. Women know this. I wrote about this as well. This is, plate theory number 5, girls game. I talk about how women use plate theory. It's not just a guy thing. It's women. Women keep their options open. They have to. That's what, like I said, hypergamy is pragmatic. So that's why. And now whatever she thought was going to work out, why she kind of blew you off before, and now she's waiting around for you and trying to make things work out, is because you've lost interest, probably because things didn't pan out. And now she's trying to make that, she's trying to recover is what she's doing. So there you go. Just don't even dude, I should give you your $10 back. Your advice is just get out. Just don't even bother with that shit. Sterling Begthal. Begtel? Is that Begtel? Any advice for someone like me who is a little burned out on red pill and spiraling towards MGTOW and being nihilistic? Yes, I do have some advice for you. Turn off your computer, read, and get away, go lift, go outside, go fishing. I'll tell you what I do. This is what I do when I get sick. I'm never going to go MGTOW or anything of this, but like, it's overwhelming, isn't it, man? I mean, to be nihilistic about things, it's not just the red pill, man. Sometimes life is overwhelming. Sometimes life is just freaking nihilistic. I hate it, man. I tell you something, I'm a child of the 80s, and like back then we had at least some sort of sense of, I don't want to say wonder, but we were entertained. We were trying new things. We're trying new music. We're trying new styles. We're trying new, like it seemed like there was like something to do, man. Like there was some sort of hope. I don't want to say hope, but like there was, um, it was a lot less nihilistic. And I think really it took a while to develop, but ever since the internet became a thing, I think we're more hopeless just in general, not just red pill. I just think in general, I think human people tend to be a little more nihilistic and more hopeless. People want to blame it on this generation, on the millennials. I think that's kind of unfair. I just think that we're just sort of getting used to the idea of sharing information across, instantly amongst this global population now. And yeah, sometimes learning about women's innate nature, or men's innate nature for that matter, can be overwhelming. Sometimes you need to get away from it, man. I think what was it? Who was it? Was it PewDiePie who took a break from the internet because he said he needed to go on like a social media diet? Maybe that's what you need to do. I'll tell you what's funny to me, and I didn't realize I was like this until recently, because I started getting into and now we're at the end of the show, so I'm just gonna bullshit here for a minute. I started getting back into playing music in a real way. Like I started playing with a band, and I started recording some stuff and sort of reconnecting with the stuff that I used to love to do. Like I have hobbies. I have more hobbies than any of you guys realize. I have so many things I'm interested in doing. And you know what? The longer I'm here, the longer I'm writing, and I'm doing this because I want to make an impact. I want to help people out, and this is what I do now. I want to write. I want to go do an event. I got all this stuff that I've got going on, but there's no fucking break, man. There is no break from this. And I know I've heard Tim Pool talk about this as well, how he's on all the time. I could not keep the same pace, the same work schedule that Tim Pool or some of these other like citizen journalist guys do, like Louder with Crowder or Dave Rubin. And you want to know who's a casualty of this as well is Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson went from being just sort of this obscure, Canadian professor to being a worldwide. Now suddenly he's a millionaire, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's a millionaire, but it happened too quick for him. He was a guy who was in the right place at the right time, and he managed to figure out that there is a generation of lost boys who are also very nihilistic. They have no purpose. He wants to say they don't have any meaning in their life. No, they have no purpose in their life. And they look to a guy like him. That's why he wrote 12 Rules for Life. He read that and he made $1 billion off of it because of that. But the problem is like guys like that this is the Wild West, man. This is the wild fucking West right now. That's why Jordan Peterson fucking flamed out. He lost it. He got addicted. Now, granted, he was already on SSRIs, but he lost it, man. And you know why? Because there's a phenomenon. It's called too young, too much, too young, too fast. And you say, well, he's not young. He's 50, late 50s, right? No, too young, too much, too young, too fast. So even at 58, it's too young because he didn't understand what he was getting into. He didn't understand the level of need that he was appealing to, and at least in some way presenting the perception that he had some sort of answers to. And I know because I get this shit in my inbox all the time. I'm doing an event right now. Imagine, like, what was Jordan Peterson doing right before he flamed out, man, before he got addicted, before he, granted his wife was, ill as well. And he's, had cancer and stuff. I don't know how really psychologically balanced he was in the first place, but throw him into a brand new media where he's the one who has to come up with the answers all the time. He goes on these speaking tours. He's making money hand over fist. He's out there with Dave Rubin. I mean, suddenly he's gone from obscurity to being a worldwide figure. They're talking about like how he's going to replace Dr. Oz with his own show. That was speculated not too long ago. Too much, too young, too fast. He didn't know what to do with it. And so as a result, he just does what most rock stars do. Gets addicted, has to go to rehab. That's what a rock star does. You know, you got to go into rehab. Maybe it's not cocaine, maybe it's benzos or whatever the hell it is, but too much, too young, too fast. And yeah, why? And so what got to him? The nihilism, man, the depression, the negativity of this age is just fucking unbearable. And it's all the time. I can't go on my phone without having somebody go, I was going to kill myself, but thank you for helping me. I'm glad I can be of service. I'm glad I can help you guys. Fuck yeah, man. It is overwhelming. And even me, like I see this and I understand that concept because I had a lot of friends back in the 80s and mostly the early 90s who did exactly the same thing. I know guys who are in successful bands who could have had a whole lot more success had they not been alcoholics, had they not been drug addicts, had they not had to check. Like they would have been. You probably would know their names today if they had some sort of control. Same thing happens to athletes. You know, you get a young kid who's a phenomenal athlete, 19, 20 years old. Suddenly he's the starter for whatever professional team there is. Makes a lot of money. Women are throwing themselves at him. You know, maybe it's basketball. I don't know. You know, he's on the road. He's nailing chicks left and right and doesn't know what to do with himself. He's, you know, these guys need like people like wise men to help them, you know, with wealth management and manage their lives. And if they don't, they flame out. You know, that same thing happened to Peterson. He didn't know. I think Peterson's very much blue pill. And that didn't help when he's thrown into that situation. But yeah, I mean, I get it, man. I understand why you would be nihilistic. I get it. Step away from it. Go do something fun. You know what got me out of it is, like I said, getting back into sort of my music a little bit. But I started listening to Steel Panther, and I'm like, this is fun. Like, what happened to fun fucking music, man? And I agree. I get it. They're a joke band, but they're huge, man. And I like the music. I think they probably should like abandon some of the lyrics that they're doing because they could be much better than that. But who cares, man? It's a party. It's fun. What happened to partying? What happened to like, you know, to like people want to say, well, I don't want to approach chicks because I'm gonna get, you know, me too. That contributes to that nihilism and that fear and like pessimism. Yeah, I get it. So here's the thing. So what happens? So you do. Maybe you go. So go MGTOW. What do you think is going to happen? Is that going to make your life better? Is it going to be? Is MGTOW going to make your life better? I don't know. And I mean that seriously. I don't know that it's going to make your life better because it depends. You know, MGTOW is basically meaningless right now, anyways. Because MGTOW is just basically red pill. How are you going to apply MGTOW or whatever? I don't care. You can call it whatever the hell you want to call it. It's the meaning of MGTOW is like so ambiguous right now that it's just basically meaningless. Like, well, I don't make women my metric of my life anymore. Good. That's what I've been telling guys since 2002. You know, that's not MGTOW. It's just red pill. That's what you're doing with it. You know, are you going to go MGTOW? Great. Okay. What's the rules? So how are you going to apply that? What's your behaviors now because of that? Okay. Are those behaviors going to make your life better or are they going to make it worse? Are you going to be more nihilistic and burned out and pissed off because you went MGTOW, or are you going to be better? I'm just telling you, just take a break. Go on a diet. Go on a social media diet, man. Sorry, that was a long ass answer. How long can you play the game? I don't know, man. However long you're good at it. Oh, what else do I got here? I got nothing else. Okay, I'm going to pull it here. All right. So last one, Crispy in Philly says, how long can you play the game? Well, I don't know. How long do you have to play the game? Yeah. Who was it? It was saying this is that Rollo has to game his wife. No, I don't have to game my wife. I am the game right now. I that have internalized red pill well enough, and my behaviors, my default behaviors, I default to a MGTOW answer, or a MGTOW, I default to a red pill answer behavior when I'm presented with things. So does the game ever end? No, you don't. You don't get out of the game. You don't get to. You don't get a. You don't get a. Like Royce was saying, you don't get a plenary indulgence. You're either entertaining women or you're not. And if that is MGTOW to you, then okay, fine. You're just not playing the game. You can't win if you don't play the game. No, I don't play the game. I'm winning because I'm not playing the game. No, that's you can't prove you're trying to prove a negative. You know. So, anyways, I'm gonna let you guys go. I've got it. I didn't realize how late it was. We're still doing Rule Zero live in Vegas. That will be April 18th. That is a Saturday. I will be there the 17th through. I'll be leaving on the 20th, so I'll be there the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And I'm still working something out with Ryan right now for that Sunday, which is the 19th. When we're talking about doing a get together, a gathering of just like a handful of guys, maybe a dozen, maybe 15, I don't know, maybe 20 max guys, and just doing a hangout. And we'll probably video it. If you don't want to be on video, don't consider it. But we're just gonna talk. We're gonna do a sort of a jam session, I guess. So that's what we're gonna do. At least that's what I'm thinking of right now. I know some of the other guys, like I think Rich is gonna go drive cars, or no, he's gonna fly planes. He's gonna go pretend he's a World War II fighter. So anyways, that's going on. I know that Hot Dude Project Vegas. I don't want to call it Hot Dude House, man. I'm calling it Project Vegas for you guys because that sounds cooler. But the guys, Troy Francis and John, they're sold out. You can't go to it unless you have already got a ticket. But if you are going to Rule Zero, we're going to have hangouts. We're going to have so many things that are going to go on. A lot of the time, it's just a get together, man. It's a gathering. I don't even want to call it a conference. It's just like guys getting together. So that's coming up in April. I'm going to go back to work now on my book. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I explained a few things to you. Every now and then I am going to start talking about game. I think that is something that needs to happen. So with that said, thank you for watching this. I will have a show on Wednesday. I promise it'll be a little bit more organized. Again, I didn't even think I was going to do this show today. I thought I was going to have to cancel. Oh, by the way, I did talk to Pat Campbell just prior to the show, and he's doing much better. It is a possibility. I don't know when, but it's a possibility he might be coming back on this show. We're going to give him a little bit longer. He's still recovering. He's not even going back to his own show full time just yet. So, I mean, the guy has plates in his head, and he was telling me what it feels like to have titanium plates in your head. He was telling me it felt like having like brain freeze, you know, like when you suck down a Slurpee or something like that. He says it feels like that sometimes. I was like, oh, I don't know if I could deal with that. But he's coming back. He's getting healthier. He sounded really good when I talked to him. So just to give you an update on what's going on with Pat, still cool. He probably won't be in Vegas. I'm just speculating here. The invite's on the table. I want him to come out to Vegas, but we'll see. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. We'll see how he goes. But he's doing much better. Just see how it is. My dog is fine too, just so you know. X-rays came out perfect, so he's good to go. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I will see you guys on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. 3:30 p.m. 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll talk to you guys then. Thanks, guys.